That may be our most synchronized one in months.
Like in 7 months.
Exactly 7 months. People who are watching the video may notice that we're sitting in basically the same types of chair.
What's going on?
With the same painted walls. Dustin is in person.
I'm here.
We're reunited.
We are in person. Yeah. Kind of crazy.
So welcome to Movie Bones.
Yeah,
Dustin.
yeah.
Welcome to the show.
This is weird because I'm so used to watching the screen.
Yeah.
But you're in front of me, so I want to make eye contact with you. But now I'm thinking when people watch this, they're gonna be like, "Man, these guys suck at watching the camera."
Yeah.
That's because we're sitting across from each other. We're actually together.
I'm not making eye contact with the audience. It's just this is an A and B conversation.
Yeah, very nice to be back in Colorado. It's kind of fun. Not permanently. This is just a quick visit. But
over the weekend, might as well record a podcast.
Hell yeah. So it's funny going from Texas to here.
Yeah.
Yep, I can feel it.
You've been fully acclimated to Texas.
Oh, man. I don't know if I'm fully yet, but it's more than I actually expected to be.
Yeah.
This table is wobbly, so if you catch me straightening it or moving it, don't hold it against me, please.
All right. Well, yeah.
I'm just so used to leaning on my little table, and I'm trying not to because this moves.
It's a new setup. Yeah. It's a temporary setup.
So
okay. So this week's episode,
we didn't even talk the beer, man. Damn.
Not right.
Special beer for we're in person again.
You're right. Yeah. So you mentioned the other week because I had a beer from this brewery, I think, and then we were like, "Oh, remember Sad Panda and how good it is?"
Panda's so good.
So I was like, "Well, Dustin will be in town. I might as well get it because he doesn't get it down in Texas."
Nope.
So we're both drinking Horse and Dragon Sad Panda Coffee Stout.
Yeah,
which is among the best of all time.
So goddamn good.
Yeah,
I'm so happy right now. Speaking of drinking good quality beer, some local beer.
Okay.
So how I've been giving my coworkers some shit a couple times recently. Well, now they have started trying IPAs.
You pushed them out of their comfort zone.
Apparently. Or they got tired of me calling them bitches. So,
well, whatever it takes.
That's for them because they listen. I lost what I was going, but I got to give them credit. So they have tried beers that are over 6%.
Nice.
And they're IPAs, which for
that's bold.
And they're enjoying them so far. At least that's what they say. I know one of them definitely does because after 2 IPAs, this dude is on his ass.
It's good. It's good, fiscal responsibility. You don't have to buy as many beers.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. He accidentally opened a third one time, third or fourth one. It was awesome because he was barely holding on. Opens this next beer and goes, "I didn't mean to do that."
Now I have to finish it,
and he did.
Yeah.
So, but I got to give those guys props because they are trying these beers. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's a good way to live life. Try new things.
This will be another one for them, even though I don't think they're big coffee drinkers, but they should be.
Yeah, it tastes so much like coffee. It's one of the most coffee-forward coffee stouts I've ever had.
Yeah.
To the point where we've had it for breakfast while camping before.
Yeah, it was breakfast.
With bacon and eggs, and it's just amazing, yeah.
It's so good. It's so good to have local home beer.
Yeah. Speaking of going back home, I guess.
In a very weird way.
I don't know. I'm trying to
just skip the entire movie.
Yeah, there's probably a better way to do that, but we'll go with it.
Ooh.
Oh, what?
Speaking of enjoying some nostalgia and loving, I got nothing. I was so close. I was trying so hard to BS my way to that, and I got nothing. It's good beer. It's an interesting movie we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, it's one of the swellest movies ever.
You would almost call it a very pleasant film.
It is a pleasant experience for sure. We're going to talk all about Pleasantville.
Yep.
The movie. And it's one of those kind of rare, I guess, movies. I think that it's rarer than it's not. So there's interesting parts to it. There's a lot going on in Pleasantville.
There's so much in that movie. I always underestimate how much is actually in that film.
Yeah.
And then I watch it and I'm like, Jesus.
Yeah, I remember like my main takeaway from it. I'm like, okay, so this is what this means. That's why I should remember. That's the takeaway. Okay, so they cover like this, and they touch on this, and they focus on this.
There's so many like social issues they bring up. There's a whole like, I just lost the word, allegory of like the Garden of Eden. There's, which as a kid when I watched this, I didn't catch on to the Garden of Eden thing, and then I watched it as an adult, and I'm like, what? Yeah. I don't know that I remember. I didn't even remember that part, and I watched it this week. I was like, well, that's very on the nose, very forward about like, oh, this is obviously the Garden of Eden, and right.
So it's crazy. It's a crazy movie.
Crazy movie. Obviously, we're going to be very spoiler heavy. So if you haven't seen Pleasantville, you should see Pleasantville.
You should.
It's a very unique experience for a film. It really is.
Yeah, and it's a really good movie, and it's one that I think you should see before you know everything about it. Just kind of like experience it how they wanted you to.
Yeah.
Instead of us telling you what happens. Yeah. So check it out and then come back and watch or listen to us talk about it and dissect it, because we'll get into it. There's a lot to talk about it.
I was trying so hard to make like good notes, and I gave up on that because there was just so much, and I was like, all right. We're just gonna I know what we're gonna be talking about.
Yeah, and I've seen it multiple times throughout my life, but it's been several years since I've seen it last. And I always like when that happens because I am able to kind of approach it fresh again, and experience it anew again. Even though I know the gist, you're still picking up on new things, so that's fun.
Yeah, it's So I will say, like, watch the movie, pick up on all I mean, you don't even have to really try to pick up on some of the stuff they're showing you because it's so obvious.
Yeah.
But enjoy the film. But we chose this movie for a pretty cheesy reason, actually.
That's true.
So we just did our black and white films last week, which if you haven't watched our episode, go watch it. Check out all those movies we talk about. It's the first episode we've had where something real fun and new happens for the first couple picks, which I'm still kind of in awe about. But
yeah, surprising.
Go check that out. But we're doing Pleasantville because this movie literally it's a transitional film from color to black and white to black and white to color.
Yeah. And so I thought of it as I was thinking about like. The big thing about Pleasantville is they get pulled in this black and white world.
Yeah, I guess we should give the synopsis, huh?
Yeah. And I mean, that's very broad. They get pulled in this black and white world it's a TV show.
It's like this old Leave It to Beaver-esque
totally
50s sitcom where it's like the perfect family.
Yeah.
Bud and Mary Sue are the perfect children in high school. Their father is the cliche, stereotypical working man, and mom stays home, cooks and cleans, makes sure dinner's on the table when everyone gets home.
As soon as dad gets home, she has pearls on. She brings him a martini, honey, I'm home kind of stuff.
Yeah. And the main character, played by Tobey Maguire, is obsessed with this show.
Yeah, he's like a super fan.
Super
dork.
Which I was like, man, I want to judge this guy. And then I started thinking of all the useless like knowledge I have on movies and TV shows. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm this guy.
Yeah.
If only it would serve a purpose.
It's such an obscure show to be a super fan of, though. Right. It's like,
it's almost like
it's not even like relatively popular, like Battlestar Galactica or something, where like most people don't care, but some people care.
Almost like he's an accidental hipster, but with something that no one actually cares about in his age group.
And to his credit, he found the one friend who kind of is a fan, but doesn't know all the.
But I feel like that one friend just kind of got hooked on it because he was like, well, every time we hang out, he just wants to watch this. So I guess I'm watching this.
I don't have any other friends.
Right. Poor kid. But he's obsessed with the show. And Mary Sue, played by Reese Witherspoon, who, let's just say, Reese Witherspoon in the 90s, fairly often, she played like risque characters. Like she was a little slutty in the 90s.
So you say she was typecast for this?
Maybe, because I'm like, she did Election, which You.
True.
I mean, I love that movie. It's hilarious. It's one of my favorite political films.
There is you.
But it is you.
Yeah.
It is very you.
Yeah.
But she did that. She was in Cruel Intentions as well. Like,
yeah.
And then this, she was a little free.
She was actually. I took a note on this.
Oh, you did.
I was trying to put it in like a politically correct way.
Oh man,
she was slutty, but she is.
She is.
Sorry, I said she was like a modern, liberated young woman, something like that.
You know, I'll get into it. I've got a rant about this, but not the movie itself. I have a rant about the director.
Okay.
But we'll get to that later. But yeah, so she's the sister of Tobey Maguire's character, and they're arguing over the TV remote because she's got a hot date coming over that she plans on doing while watching a concert on MTV.
Yeah.
MTV used to play music.
It stands for music television.
It did. I think they dropped that now. I think it's just MTV.
Probably.
Which is stupid. Go back to the way it was, MTV. You were so much better. And then Tobey Maguire's character wants to watch this Pleasantville marathon for a contest to win $1,000, right? Isn't that it? Or am I getting contests mixed up?
I don't remember all of the things. I do remember that it says part of the prize is a trip to the Pleasantville of your choice.
And they show you every Pleasantville in America.
Yeah, there are a lot of different cities named Pleasantville that you can win a trip to.
So they break the remote because they're arguing.
Yeah.
And Don Knotts plays this mystical TV repairman that shows up.
He shows up before they even call anybody to fix it. He just randomly shows up and they let him in, which is weird. Great. Okay. Backing up a second. Their mom is leaving town.
Oh, yeah.
For the weekend or something.
Yeah. She's going to go and spend the weekend with her boyfriend.
She has a new boyfriend and their mom kind of sucks. Their mom leaves without saying goodbye, which caught me up. Was weird. I very much noticed it. I was like, she just leaves, and Tobey Maguire was watching her through the window. I was like, she doesn't say goodbye. What is her deal? And so they let this old man in who just shows up and says he's a repairman, even though they didn't call him for help. And so they're basically giving you proof that they shouldn't be left alone. They are not capable of.
They're not compatible.
Yeah.
They're not good together.
So that's weird. But yeah, Don Knotts, who is amazing and obviously very famous for the Andy Griffith Show, which is also in that 50s era, black and white, wholesome time frame. Yeah. And so very fun that he's in it. I love Don Knotts.
It was his last live action role.
That doesn't surprise me. I wondered at that thing when I was watching it. And yeah, he's great. He's really fun in it. Yeah. He's equally weird and creepy. He's honestly kind of a psychopath because he pulls them into this world
thinking they would love it.
Yeah. And for no real reason other than he thinks they would have a good time. So he tells Tobey Maguire's character, David, that he quizzes him and he's talking to him about the show Pleasantville and how great it is. And he quizzes him and he's like, oh, you got all these things right. You obviously are a super fan. Most people don't. I've been looking for somebody who loves this show as much. Right. And I'm always disappointed because they either don't know the old episodes or all this stuff. And so he's excited that he found him. And I get the impression he's searching for a hero. He needs somebody to save the town or something. That doesn't happen. He just pulls him into the show, but just because. Kind of against their will.
Yeah,
he doesn't tell
very
them.
Much against their will.
Yeah. And he's kind of just a creepy mystical guy who gives them this weirdly janky homemade remote control.
Huge, like the kind of remote or mystical item you would see in old 60s Doctor Who.
Yeah, it's we're trying to be sci-fi, but it's very obviously homemade and not actually functional. It's just for a show. It is like that. And he's also, I feel the movie Click kind of ripped this part off because it is basically the part where Christopher Walken gives Adam Sandler the remote and they have this whole thing. So he's basically that archetype, if that can be an archetype between two movies. But yeah, that's what happens.
Then I can't remember Reese Witherspoon's like actual character's name. Did you write it? Jennifer. So then David and Jennifer have to play Pleasantville, and it does not take long before they royally fuck Pleasantville up.
Yeah. It's like the first thing that happens, they go to class and she just starts asking questions.
Right. Her first interaction with like school in Pleasantville is what's outside of Pleasantville, and everyone's like, what?
Everybody looks and everybody stops. Like, you don't.
Right. And the teacher.
Stupid question.
I do find it funny how just blatant the teacher is. Like, well, everyone knows nothing's outside of Pleasantville. And she's like, well, what's at the end of Main Street? You go right back to the start. You're like, oh my God.
And you idiots don't think there's a problem here?
Right. And then Bud, Tobey Maguire is now Bud.
Yeah.
He works at the diner where Jeff Bridges works at.
Mm-hmm.
And I always thought this impact was actually almost a better impact than how she does it.
Yeah.
Because it's a little more subtle.
Mm-hmm.
So they're all about their routines. Everything's the same there. They expect everything to operate a certain way. They've never had anything ruin that.
Right.
And, oh man, what's his name? Jeff Bridges' name. It's Mr. Harrison?
It's Bill Johnson?
Mr. Johnson, yeah. So he's wiping the counters, and he tells Bud, you know how I wipe the counters and you set out the chairs or whatever? He gives them what they're supposed to do, but Bud wasn't there. Bud was late.
Yeah. And so he couldn't move on in his normal routine.
Yeah, so he's just been wiping the counters, and they show you he's been wiping the counters for so long he has started to wear the paint out.
Yeah.
And Bud stops him. I love the subtlety of that because it completely derails his routine from that moment moving forward with the movie.
Yeah.
Honestly. It's a huge impact, but it's such a subtle one of just wrecking routine.
Yeah.
And which I love. But yeah, so the synopsis ends with how they fuck up Pleasantville and have to kind of learn human growth, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And as they start changing routines or changing things, the characters in that world start changing or learning how to live a real life, a more grounded life. And that is slowly adding color to their world. That's the big thing about Pleasantville is it slowly starts adding color, and then you move out of the black and white era into the color era. And that is why it's a good reason to follow our black and white episode, because we're getting out of that and going back to color.
Yeah. Cheesiest reason we could, but it works. It works.
And it's a good movie to talk about. So
it is a good movie.
Had to come up at some point.
All right. Well, so synopsis done, a little bit of getting into it, I guess, started. So let's dive into it. You brought up the mom.
Yeah.
So we'll start before they actually go into Pleasantville, because there's a few things about their lives pre-Pleasantville that need help.
Yeah. Their family dynamic is interesting. I didn't remember that they were twins, for one thing.
Yeah.
So Jennifer and David are twins. Very different, obviously at odds with each other. Jennifer's very interested in she's finally starting to become popular. She has a life that she likes in this real world.
Yeah.
David's very much an outsider. I really like the first interaction you see of him. He's talking to this girl, and she's kind of responding, but kind of not really. And then you realize he's pretending to talk to her while she's way far away,
right,
talking to some other guy,
talking to her boyfriend.
Yeah. And so he's kind of a loner, sad nerd.
See, I kind of take that opening's a great opening, but at the same time, I'm always sad for him because, and this is a huge thing with his character, is he doesn't have confidence.
Right.
He's from a broken home, as you learn. His mom is the first time you meet his mom, she's yelling at his dad on the phone. And it turns out his dad's kind of a piece of shit.
Yeah. Yeah. She says something well, I guess if you're not going to see him, you have to see him another time or something.
Well, she's like, this is your time to see them. You need to see your children. And you don't hear what he says, but her responses are constantly like, well, if you're not going to bother trying to see them, like, you should at least let them know you're not going to make it.
Yeah.
Instead of just blowing them off. But I kind of feel that's why he's so obsessed with Pleasantville, is because it is the quote unquote perfect family.
Yeah.
So it's almost like he's like projecting I wish that I could experience anything like this.
An escape, kind of.
Yeah. Which makes me feel really bad for him.
Yeah, super sad. It's like his coping mechanism, which is sad.
And I actually can't help but also feel like Jennifer, the character of Jennifer, is the way she is.
Yeah.
For a very cliche reason, that would be daddy issues. Because she's pretty, trying to be promiscuous.
Yeah.
You can get that sense that she's getting ready to go for it, or has been.
Yeah.
Because she kind of alludes that she's done it for a while later on. Actually, she has a line that she's done it for a while.
I've had more sex than any of these people.
So I kind of feel like that's her coping mechanism too for abandonment issues and stuff. So their characters are a little more in depth than you really catch on to until you've watched the movie a few times. Because when I saw Pleasantville, it was right after it first came out, and it came out in '98.
Yeah.
So we were pretty young. Didn't catch on to any of the subtle cues of characters. We just thought, oh, it's a brother and sister that fight, get sucked into a show.
Yeah, and I was always a big fan of like those old Nick at Night, black and white, like Dick Van Dyke, Andy Griffith, all of these like old shows. Yep. I probably watched more TV Land shows than I watched cartoons as a kid. So like all of the shows, Petticoat Junction, the Moon one. What's the I forget.
I didn't watch the Moon one.
I'm saying I've seen a lot of them, and then I can't remember any of them.
But no, I watched a ton of TV Land as well. I'm with you. I'm all for those old classics. It's not as old, but I've been watching like Family Matters with Steve Urkel recently.
Yeah.
Man, it's so interesting how even in the late 80s, early 90s, these family shows, although in color, are very still reminiscent, very following that formula from the 50s.
Right.
Of like, no, this is how we do these sitcoms. This is the structure we stick with. We're just doing this. I think Home Improvement did it pretty well, but Home Improvement actually pushed a lot of like lines by introducing a lot of conflict. But
I've been meaning to. I wanted to recently to go back and watch Wonder Years because they just rebooted it. And I was like, oh, I love Wonder Years. I should go back and watch it.
I haven't watched Wonder Years in forever.
Yeah.
But I saw that they rebooted that. Back on topic, though.
But so the very beginning of the movie, they show like basically a TV Land promo for Pleasantville, and it feels very realistic. And then they show the high school and like their real life. And I like the beginning of the movie because they film it in a very, I guess, modern way. The camera angles and everything are more like square, straight on. And then the content is of their high school, like the things that they're learning. It's very much obvious that they're getting across real life kind of sucks. The future is kind of bleak. Like jobs are going down.
They get told in the year 2000 the world's pretty much ending. By the way, the movie came out in '98. Remember that.
But everybody is talking about how like terrible the future is going to be and all this stuff.
How terrible the past was.
Yeah, and so it's very obvious why you would want an escape into like more of a nostalgic, like gentle, idealized version of nostalgia.
Yeah.
And that's very much a real thing. People, and I catch myself doing it sometimes, but some people really do it where they idealize the past and better than it actually was, I guess. And I think these like 50s sitcoms are part of that, where it's like, no, the sitcom isn't like how it actually was in the 50s. That said, though, if I went back in that time, I do know for a fact riding on an airplane would have been so much better in the 50s than it is now.
You think so?
everything that I've seen has been like so much more leg room. Everybody gets a meal. You get to smoke on it. You get drinks on it. Like
we should note neither of us are smokers, but
you don't get like
as a positive.
Well, that's true, but you don't get like cavity searched getting on the plane. Like everything has just gotten progressively smaller and more expensive and like just more unpleasant, more like a bus than like a luxurious thing.
I was just on a plane and I had to laugh the whole time I was at the airport, the whole time I was on the flight and getting off the flight, because it was such like all I kept thinking of is the movie It, the opening with the sheep.
Yeah,
that's all I kept thinking of. I was like, well, who's gonna shoot us in the head on our way out? We're just getting corralled to our doom.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know that I would. I think the experience of being on the plane in the 50s would be fun, but that's still pretty early in aviation, right?
No. The Wright brothers were like in the 1910s or something.
Okay,
either way. World War I.
Okay, this but is you know what I mean? Like this is like commercial airlines and stuff. Yeah,
they could carry bombs, like they would bomb Hiroshima.
That. I'm saying I'm not sure I would put that much trust into that.
That's fair. Yeah, I think everything.
That's what I'm getting at. James.
Everything was more janky. Even their cars. They've had cars forever, and they're still pretty big and janky.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I love flying. I do love flying. I really do.
Anyway, we kind of got sidetracked.
Keep getting sidetracked. It's okay.
About their family life, and especially their mom. She is obviously dealing with her divorce and trying to like move on and prioritizing that over her kids. Prioritizing going out and spending the weekend with this guy, and just kind of leaves her kids. And her kids seem to be used to it. Like
he seems so unfazed. He seems so unfazed by her argument with his dad on the phone that you get the sense this is a regular occurrence. Yeah. Like he's so conditioned to being like, oh, whatever. Mm-hmm. Like you gotta get the sense it's probably what their little childhoods were like as well.
Yeah.
Which sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. It's unclear how long that's been going on, but they seem so used to it. It must not be new.
Yeah. You end up feeling bad for the mom. You really do later on, but that's more to come.
Yeah, it works out at the end. It's a big closure thing.
So, and then, like we brought up, so Jennifer has escaped too. She's got this popular boy coming over to watch a concert on MTV. Mm-hmm. I do get distracted during her phone call in her bedroom where she's picking out her outfit to wear. The gum smacking.
Yeah. I thought the exact same thing. I was like, if I was on the other end of the line with her,
I would have hung up or told her, like, can you spit the gum out?
Yeah.
I've done that to people.
It's terrible phone etiquette like, for one thing.
You can chew gum without smacking it. You really can. It's possible.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just imagine being through the phone. It's so much worse than even we were hearing.
I also can't imagine they would have done several takes of that simply because your boom mic operator has to be like, if I hear her smack that gum one more time, I'm going to smack her with the boom.
Absolutely.
But the gum smacking does get distracting to me. Man, I would rather listen to Nails on a Chalkboard, honestly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
I noticed it, but it was whatever.
Oh, it's so irritating. But anyways, she's like talking to her friend, and you can get that like it. Mm-hmm. They're definitely talking about.
She's like talking about like the underwear that she's picked out or whatever. Yeah, it's not just like he's coming over to watch it. She's like expecting it to go further.
This is basically like she's getting ready to Netflix and chill, but before Netflix was even thought of.
TV concert and chill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You never find out who the concert was going to be, though. It was just, you want to come over and watch that concert on
It TV? Didn't matter. That's why.
Yeah.
It could have been anything.
It could have been. There's a weird shot, though, coming up. So they're gearing up for 6 o'clock. That's what time both things start showing.
Yeah, there's a conflict brewing.
Yeah, and they're both getting ready. Mm-hmm. That weirds me out. And I forgot about this until rewatching it this week. they're both getting ready. I understand her getting ready.
Yeah, she has a person coming over and she needs to be presentable.
And I understand him wanting to get like his soda and his popcorn, sure.
Mm-hmm.
But there's this weird shot where he's checking himself out, like his face in the mirror. Did you notice that?
I can't say I did.
It's a very quick shot where he turns his face and he's like, why?
Yeah, who cares?
You're watching a show.
Yeah.
Like you're probably going to sit in the dark
yeah.
and watch this show.
Alone.
What the fuck does it matter?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a weird thing to
It's
make
such
like
a
a
weird,
montage.
very quick shot.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched the movie twice this week.
Mm-hmm.
And even that second time watching, I was like, it's so pointless. Why is that shown in there?
Yeah, that is weird.
But they do that like fun thing where they're both running down the stairs,
Mm-hmm.
which I do find a little odd because they have one staircase. Wouldn't you notice each other running?
Yeah.
Like, but they both grab the remote at the same time, thinking like, "What are you doing here?"
Yeah. Surprised that there's that both of them want to do it, and she's like, well, you should go upstairs and watch it upstairs, and she doesn't want to because there's no stereo up there.
Yeah,
I feel like if you're gonna make out with a boy, upstairs is more important, but whatever. That's
unless
just
she
me.
was hoping for the stereo to drown out the awkward
Smacking,
sounds. Yeah.
gum smacking, if you know what I mean. Moving on. But yeah, so they're fighting over the remote and they break it. Obviously, they like throw it against the wall.
They shatter this thing across the wall.
Shit.
I'm gonna call a movie mistake here.
Okay.
I had that TV remote when I was a kid, and I always knew. Like, I remember watching the movie for the first time and pointing it out to my parents. Like, we have that remote.
Yeah.
It was a sturdy remote, folks.
It was like the Nokia phone
The
of remote.
force that they throw that remote at the wall at
Mhm.
would not have shattered that remote like that. That remote, that's a movie like, we need someone to really throw this thing.
That's really funny. I didn't care about that, but there is another like weird, awkward faux pas thing, which is like Reese Witherspoon says, well, just use the buttons on the TV.
That was
like,
my next one.
change the channel normally. And David's like, you can't use, like, you need the remote because it's a new TV.
Yeah, it's a new TV. It doesn't work without a remote.
Like, what weird future
Wait
are
a
you
minute.
living in?
Even TVs today
In 2021,
it can still be operated
Yeah.
from like manually.
they always have buttons on them.
But part of me forgave that line because he's a teenager at that point.
Okay.
Kids these days don't understand what manual stuff is. So I feel like if my remote at home broke,
Yeah.
my child probably would not understand that you can still do everything
Yeah.
from the TV.
That's true. I see dumb kids these days who like they think every screen is a touch screen and they're like
right.
touching laptops and like TVs and stuff. It's like, no, it's just a screen. It's a normal screen.
Stop poking stuff.
And they're like, oh, that's old and archaic. No, that's how everything was until like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, so I kind of forgive his line just as long as I put myself in the mentality of like, he's a dumb kid.
Okay. Okay. I'm with you. I'll forgive it too. But yeah, so when Don Knotts shows up, he just shows up immediately.
Remote shatters into pieces and the doorbell rings.
Yeah. And there's like a thunderclap to kind of like
Yeah.
ominously describe what's about to happen. And so they let him in, like we described. Very weird to do that, but whatever. They're dumb kids, like you said. And so he's like pretending to fix it, mostly quizzing the kid, and then gives him that weird remote.
Yeah.
And then leaves. And the other thing that was funny to me is like, he didn't try it. Like, you would think if you were actually a repairman, you would make sure it works and then leave.
Like, make sure there's batteries in it.
Yeah, make sure it's like connected. Like, there's all these things that technicians do. He just leaves. And then they try it. And hey, yeah, this actually does work. It turns on the TV. It changes the channel. This is great. And then he ends up on Pleasantville. And then he stays on Pleasantville, and his sister gets upset, and they start wrestling over it again. Luckily, this one is like iron or stainless steel or something. They're not going to break it, which is good. But then they accidentally press some button, and it has like the funniest effects that like as they get sucked into the TV, the way that it's shot and edited. and there's this kind of like a warbly effect that happens. It's always kind of funny to me. It looks like kind of silly. That's like the most silly part to the movie to me. But they get sucked into and then all of a sudden they're in the living room in black and white, and they know they're in black and white. Like they reference, I'm pasty, what's going on, where are we? And that's fun.
Which I actually really like, although there is, with that line, there is a line later on about the color blue that you could call like a mistake. Mm-hmm. But we can get to the color blue later. I'm going to make a note so I remember to get to the color blue.
That's a good idea. That sounds very professional. Do that.
Well, usually I forget when I'm like, oh, I'll get back to that, and then it's gone.
Yeah. Yeah, so they get sucked in, and they're in the living room and kind of trying to orient themselves.
Yeah.
And then they get called to breakfast.
Well,
the dad comes through the living room, and he's like, hey, bud, hey, Muffin, how's it going? And then David knows what's going on. He's very familiar with this living room, with that dad. He's like,
he's very like he does, and Tobey Maguire does a really good job of showing that kind of like shock, but at the same time, you can see the like familiarity, almost excitement of like, am I actually here?
Yeah, and for a super fan, it would be like a dream come true.
And then Don Knotts shows up on the TV with like the test screen background,
right?
And he's like, hey, guys, isn't it great? You're in Pleasantville. And they're like, why?
Yeah. What the hell? And he's like, you can't say hell here.
Yeah, oh, can't say that there. Don Knotts is so great as this repairman, this Mr. Gold. See, there's a lot of moments where you're like, was this the fate of Barney?
Yeah.
Barney was his character on Andy Griffith.
Barney Fife, deputy to Andy Griffith.
Oh, hi, Cat. Pick a side, dude. Or not. Cool. Oh, there you go. Hi. I'm going to pick you up. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, Pleasantville. There you go. Sorry. We're in person. I haven't gotten to see the animals for a while, so
there's a lot of animals.
You guys are over it. He does such a great job when he's like, I thought you guys would be more appreciative of this. And they're like, why?
It's like, well, they like start talking back to him. He's like, well, I'm going to make you stay there for a week or two to just cool off.
Yeah.
And then just like leaves them. And
he just walks off screen.
Yeah. What the crap are you doing? Yeah. And like I said, he's a psychopath. Why would you do this to somebody?
It's kind of insane. Yeah. And then the mom, they've been called a couple times for breakfast, which is already not the norm.
Yeah.
So,
normally you come immediately.
Yeah, and you can kind of hear the like confusion in the parents' voices as they're trying to call like kids. And then the mom shows up in the door, like in the entryway, saying, "Your breakfast, we can't let you go to school without a hearty breakfast." By the way, if you saw our post for this. I'm just going to.
That was very impressive.
I was so proud of that. And I'm not going to lie. I didn't even realize that our logo still had color in it when I made it. But when it did, I was like, it's even better.
It totally fit. Yeah, when you did that, I was like, that's a brilliant idea. And then I saw you had only did it in the stories. Like, this needs to be a real post. And so I stole it.
Yeah, which is fine.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Yeah. I was so proud of that moment. This is awesome. And then so I showed it to my dad, and my dad was like, wow, you're not even trying to hide stuff. And I thought about it and went, oh no.
Oh no. Well, no.
Because our logo is hilarious.
It's like a dick. Yeah, so the hearty breakfast though.
Balls.
That's what it is. It's good to have. Never mind. The breakfast is the most ridiculous, hearty. Hearty is not a good way to put it. It's the most absurd. Excessive is appropriate.
So excessive, which is your first big notion of like social commentary in this movie.
Oh, do tell.
More. So the huge American breakfast.
Okay.
It's excessive. It's ridiculous. There's no way anyone's going to be able to stomach all of that.
You're talking about how like
Dude, the stack of pancakes.
England eats like beans for breakfast because
no, like the amount. It's so much. Okay. It's so much. It's so big.
Yeah.
It's like
and honestly wasteful because
very wasteful.
Who makes that many waffles and pancakes and
ham steaks,
like stacks of them for 4 people,
right?
Who 2 are kids and
this is a very normal thing that happens in movies and shows. They always do this, and it always annoys me. Mm-hmm. I don't care. Like Christopher Nolan could put this in his movies, and I would be like, God damn it. This always bothers me. They always make this breakfast. Mm-hmm. The kids show up to the table. They eat 1 or 2 bites and then bail.
Yeah.
They do it in Pleasantville after they even reiterate, you have to eat all of this up.
Yeah.
They eat 2 bites and bail for school.
I presume that they ate more than that because Reese Witherspoon says that she feels sick because she ate so much.
True, but she's pretty
that could be that she never eats anything and she had a couple of bites and now for sure.
But it's a thing that always gets used in movies and TV shows is if the kids need to go to school and there's a huge breakfast, they're not eating that breakfast.
Yeah.
And it always bothers me. But I only know that was a social commentary because I watched the stupid director's commentary on Pleasantville.
Oh.
And I'm going to start my rant right now.
Yeah, so Gary Ross wrote and directed and produced it.
Which I looked at some of his other projects, and I'm a fan of his work.
Yeah.
I never realized I was until I looked up what all he's done.
He wrote Big and Dave. He wrote and directed Free State of Jones, which is really good.
And the Hunger Games.
The Hunger Games and Ocean's 8, which is Hunger Games is good.
So I'm a fan of his work. But then I listened to his commentary, and he did not talk. I was all excited to hear about the making of the film.
Yeah.
Because there's not really a making of feature on the DVD. It's like the art of Pleasantville, which is more about just all the artwork that's in it.
Yeah.
Kind of the inspiration behind a lot of it. But all he turned his director's commentary into was a giant fucking 2-hour political rant. And it bothered me.
Okay.
Because I never actually took the film to be a political statement.
Yeah.
According to his commentary, it is.
Interesting.
And I was really bummed to hear him say that.
There are definitely political things in it, but one of the things I appreciated about it is that I take away the complexity of it.
Yeah.
The main thing about the film is that you focus on the nostalgia of old times and people change and grow, and there are good things about that, and then there are worse things about that.
Yeah, so, I've always taken the film of kind of showcasing the importance, good and bad, in change. Like the necessity that change has to be there.
Yeah.
Whether you're afraid of it or not, change will inevitably happen.
Yeah.
And it's for the better.
Yeah.
But he turned it into this huge political commentary that was just really annoying to listen to.
Yeah.
And it kind of bummed me out hearing this guy talk, because then I'm looking at his other movies and I'm like, well, I still like your movies. So
yeah,
even though I think you should shut up, but I can't really say that because we have our own
for sure
rants that we do.
That's interesting to hear though, because I feel like Free State of Jones is kind of a different, I guess there are similarities between these two movies. It's interesting.
Okay. But yeah, so his commentary, what I had hoped for and was looking forward to, especially with like the makeup.
Yeah.
Because the makeup's cool. Really well done.
The makeup's really cool. The thing that like stands out to me is obviously as things start getting colorized, which we'll get to here in a little bit, that's always interesting. Obviously, we talked about last week how Schindler's List did that, where Sin City, certain like items or people, parts of people are colored. That's interesting. But what's most interesting to me is later on when it's like mostly color and then there's still black and white people in those scenes. Yeah. How did they do that? Like that seems more interesting to me of like,
it's different. Like, and he didn't really talk about hardly any of that. It was literally just him going on.
Yeah.
a socialist rant for 2 hours. I was like, why are you doing this, man? Like, I wanted to hear about the film, like the casting. What made you choose Tobey Maguire? What about his audition made you be like, you're David?
Yeah.
And you're also Bud. I actually get like, Tobey Maguire is Bud.
Yeah.
100%.
Totally.
His line of like, hiya. Like, he's Bud.
Yeah. Yeah. And he excels in that like world, which is interesting because as soon as they get in there and he starts like, they go to school right after breakfast and he like is talking to the neighbor a little bit. He's like, oh yeah, my dad just got a Buick. I know kind of where we are in this timeline, the continuity. I know what
and he's still trying to figure out. Well, he hasn't figured out which episode yet.
Yeah.
But you can see him piecing it together.
He knows the details. He knows who that guy is.
My dad did get the Buick. So you can see him being like, okay, so we are just after getting this Buick.
Yeah. So he kind of excels in this world. He knows everyone and everything. So he fits in, I think, so well, which is very different from his real life where he doesn't really fit in. He's kind of a loner or not super popular, involved in real life like stuff with
and he's also suddenly he's got like a whole sense of confidence because he knows this world. He knows what he's got to do. Like he's just got it all down because he's got the show memorized, so he knows exactly all the steps to take, all the right lines, all the fun little things. I do love that they still have him, even though he knows how everything is perfect in Pleasantville, he still tests the limits. And I love that with the basketball. We'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
And I like, Reese Witherspoon as Jennifer, now Mary Sue, is like, what are we supposed to do?
Yeah.
What is it? Like, you have to coach me. So suddenly she's kind of having to be dependent a little bit on her brother, who she kind of get the sense like they're always at odds, maybe a little resentment or something.
And she's really suffering in this place because she was popular in real life and now she doesn't know what's going on, feels out of place.
She's suddenly a very innocent person. That doesn't last long, but
and I think on the way to school they see Paul Walker. R.I.P.
So this is Paul Walker before anyone knew who Paul Walker was.
Yeah. Before he blew up in the Fast franchise.
Yeah.
He shows up and she's like, oh, he's cute.
Right.
Do I like him? Does he like me? And Buzz like, as a matter of fact, he does like you. You do have a story together, so this will work out.
But he also kind of like gives her the like, but don't go.
Don't fuck him.
Don't be you. Like,
just you're in a show.
You are Mary Sue now. There is none of this. Don't do it. And she like runs to her friends that he gives her all of their names. By the way,
they are like all the same.
They are the same. Yes.
Like I was looking at all their different faces and I'm like, you look the same.
Yeah. So did you catch yourself? I did this time. Just kind of wondering. He spouts off all of their names. It's three double names.
Yeah, every one of them, like Mary Sue, is like, I don't even remember their names, but they're like...
So there it is.
They're all very generic, like Betty Sue and Jane, like all these things.
Yeah. So he spouts off their double names, and she goes, okay, and she goes towards them. I tried to retain their names and was like, what was the first one he said?
I'm not surprised, yeah.
I was like, how would she memorize their names that quick?
Yeah. Yeah, they're very generic, forgettable, honestly.
Yeah. And he kind of like, he walks into the school with like he's got better posture. He's like, all right, here we go.
Yeah.
And then we get to the classroom scene that we were talking about earlier where she's slouching. Why did no one comment on her slouching? She's the only student slouching.
Yeah.
And then, what's outside of Pleasantville?
Yeah. That's like
so
what the first, that's kind of like the first weird thing. It's like, it's a geography class, but the teacher's talking about the geography of Pleasantville. It's like, we have these two streets. How is this street different than this street? And that's the whole class.
Right.
It's so weird.
Main Street's longer? You're right. great.
Yeah, it's so weird. But then the basketball scene, the gym scene.
I love the basketball scene.
Yeah. Everybody makes a basket every time they shoot. And Bud David tests it by like completely throwing it at the wall, just like banking it off stuff, and it still goes in.
He punts the basketball and it ricochets off a couple things and goes right into the net. It's always all net. There's never like
perfect swish.
Yeah, perfect swish every time. And this is kind of like they didn't include it in the director. This is one of the few things that he did mention of like the kind of the catalyst and change in Pleasantville. He didn't mention this one, which kind of bummed me out because it's a very entertaining one. So they do that great shot where the whole team shoots the ball like synchronized and they all just perfectly fall in.
Yeah.
I was looking forward to hearing like how many takes or how did you pull this one off?
Yeah.
Is it all digital or did you actually shoot the ball?
Yeah.
He didn't talk about it. Jerk.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that must be editing. Otherwise that would be
it would have to be, but it looks awesome. I love that shot. And so Paul Walker comes up all excited. Hiya, Bud. Hiya, Skip. Like he's Bud. Tobey Maguire does such a great job in this movie. I really love him in this movie.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm thinking of asking Mary Sue out. And Bud tells him, I don't think that's a good idea right now. I kind of take that's got to be a little bit of a like kink in this chain suddenly.
Yeah, well, it certainly is.
Obviously is.
Because Skip is like, what? Like, I don't know what I would do if I couldn't ask her out.
Which is hilarious. I was like,
where do I go from here? Because this is totally throwing off my plan. Like my
whole character arc.
My wiring.
Just messed it up.
Yeah.
And he throws the ball out of kind of frustration, which is also a new thing for Pleasantville.
True.
And it misses. Like it just rights the rim and then falls.
And then everybody stops.
It's one of the
looks.
funniest scenes in the movie as the ball rolls towards them. Everyone backs away. The coach is telling people like,
don't touch it. Don't touch it. It's cursed.
It is
cursed. Wrong.
There's bad juju with that ball.
Yeah, that part's really funny.
I love that whole basketball sequence. It cracks me up every time of like the perfect, everyone's synchronized perfectly, the shooting the ball. Tobey Maguire punts it and it goes in. He kind of finds it amusing. I'm like, I can't believe this is like happening.
Yeah.
And then he fucks it up.
By the way, while we're talking about the basketball team and how they always make every shot.
Yeah.
They make a thing about later on that they win every game. They've always won. But who do they play is my question.
So they talk about there's nothing outside of Pleasantville.
Yeah. So,
but they obviously play someone.
They play games, or they. The thing that I thought is because I think in that first scene there, the coach is like, "We have a big game tomorrow. Let's go, guys. Let's get a good practice in." The next practice, I think the coach is like, "We have a game next week." So maybe the games happen between episodes and there's never actually a game. It's just kind of skipped over because there is no other team. There might be there's only two streets. Like there's not even another high school in town.
But you do see them play a team later on.
You do?
Yeah. It's right after we can't win them all. And the mayor goes, but we do win them all.
Yeah. Yeah,
because they show the scoreboard and it's like they're losing.
Yeah. Because the whole team.
Where did that other team come from?
Yeah, it's so I don't understand how.
But I do like your thinking on that because that would still fit, even though you see them play a team. Mm-hmm. That still fits because you don't actually see a lot of the other team.
Yeah,
so they can still play it off as the games are in between episodes, and the random time you do see a game would be more just to kind of placate the audience to be like, "Oh, look, another team. Never mind."
Yeah, you don't need they don't need to be from anywhere. They don't need any actual information.
Yeah, which just adds to the whole like that style back then.
Yeah,
but I do love that basketball scene, the practice scene. It's so funny too.
Yeah.
But then we get the very cliche thing, which has always been used in anything with high school girls. This is used in it. from any decade. I don't think it actually matters what decade you are in.
Yeah.
This is the same thing always.
Tale as old as time.
The three friends come squealing to their main friend. Mm-hmm. He's going to ask you out.
Yeah, they're very stereotypical in that way.
I do love like the little detail of he's going to give you his high school pin. Mm-hmm. It's such a goofy thing.
That's a very 50s thing.
Very 50s, and I always think about Grease whenever I hear it get mentioned in any other film.
Yeah. He's going to pin you.
Just don't be like Danny.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't do it. So the movie kind of moves rapidly at this point, though.
Yeah.
Because it's a 2-hour film, and this is only within, 20, 25 minutes of the movie now.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it just propels forward with, they are in Pleasantville, here we go.
Right.
We get to see the diner.
Yep.
It's packed, and Mary Sue and Skip show up.
Yeah, Skip takes her out to the diner, because there's only one place to take people out to.
Well, there's two.
Yeah. Well, that's true. It's either that or where they go afterwards. Yeah, she kind of jumps ahead. Well, Skip is trying to talk to her about, I want to take things slow. Some people are already holding hands, but I don't want to move that quickly. We can just not hold hands yet.
It's and I'm totally calling this culture out right here, but it's like purity culture.
Yeah.
It's very purity culture. And you're that's odd.
Yeah. At least they don't have need to have chaperones and things.
True.
Yeah,
they're allowed to be near each other.
It is similar for sure. But then she's just the funny thing is as they're talking, she excuses herself because he's annoying. She's trying to push the boundaries and stuff, and he's very on script.
He doesn't catch on to anything yet. Yeah. If it's off script, he's not there.
So she leaves and goes to the bathroom, and there's no toilets in any of the bathrooms, which is one of my favorite
things. Yeah, because movies throughout the 50s, there was an actual rule in Hollywood.
Oh, really?
You were not allowed to show toilets, and you were definitely not allowed to show or hear toilets flushing. In fact, the first movie to do both...
It's not very pleasant.
No. But the first movie to do both of those things was Psycho.
Okay. Interesting.
Yep.
That came early on.
Yeah. Well, that came out in the 60s.
Yeah.
But everything leading up to Psycho, there was an actual rule. You are not allowed to show these things. And it legitimately was because it's not a pleasant sight.
Yeah.
There's nothing pleasant about a toilet.
Yeah.
Unless you're watching Dumb and Dumber and that shitting scene happens and you are laughing harder than you have laughed in forever.
It's hilarious, but it's still not pleasant.
Not pleasant, but it is hilarious. So you accept it.
Yeah, they had a lot of those rules. I remember it was a huge deal when, they never showed bedrooms, basically. Yep. And then they showed, I think it was I Love Lucy, they showed a bedroom for the first time. And it was like a scandal. It was
it's
biggest deal.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh, that's another thing in Pleasantville is in the master bedrooms, spouses don't sleep in the same bed. They're
two twins beds.
Two twins, yeah.
Way spread apart.
It really is a purity culture made a show. It really is.
So Jennifer takes Skip. She's like, "You want to get out of here and go to Lover's Lane?" And she drags him out. And Bud realizes what's going on. David realizes. He starts calling her by her real name. He's like, "Jennifer, no!" He's like, "You can't do this to someone that doesn't exist." That's my favorite.
He chases him outside screaming this. There's no subtlety to it.
Yeah.
But no one even bats an eye. It's kind of weird. But they go to Pleasantville. And this is hilarious, gross, odd. It's everything that teenage sex in movies is.
It's true. Yeah, they are. They might be seniors, maybe for legal reasons. They're seniors.
I think they have to be seniors, close to the end of the school
18-year-old seniors specifically. Yeah.
So she is laying on I don't want to say the charm, but
she's trying to like get things going.
And he is trying to rev the engine, and he is not even close to
oblivious, completely oblivious. And so she has to be very forward with him in order to actually get things to happen. And when she does get things going, there's like this shot of like panning all the cars, and everybody's just kind of sitting there conversating. And
you hear moaning.
It sounds like sex. Like I was like, are they having sex immediately? And then as they like talk later on, they're like seem to be just making out, maybe
some heavy petting.
Yeah.
And then they sit up, and he is so freaked out, and it's so funny. So rewatching this movie, made me wish that Paul Walker would have done some more comedies.
Oh yeah,
because I think like his timing, especially this scene. Is so great. His facial expressions are so great. I kind of wish he would have done a little more comedy instead of going down just the action route.
Definitely.
Although can't deny his success when he made that decision.
It's true.
But still, I kind of wish he would have at least been around longer to do comedy.
Yeah.
Sorry, Paul. But he like, I think I need to go home. I might be, and he does this great thing where he like looks down, looks up, and goes, I might be ill. And she's like, what? She looks down and she goes, no, that's supposed to happen. Yeah. It is? He looks so freaked out and confused.
Apparently, he's never had an erection before.
Right. Which makes sense.
Yeah. Exactly. Why would you?
I love his whole thing on that scene. Cracks me up so much. It is.
Yeah.
I love it. But then she's like, that's her decision point right there of we're going all the way.
Yeah.
She gets on him, then pulls him down, making out heavily. And
they're in a very public place, like, in a convertible.
The top is down.
Top's down. And yeah, there's no shame.
At all.
Just going for it.
But why would there be?
That's true.
The cars next to him aren't even reacting to the sounds.
Yeah.
So you would imagine.
And she's kind of treating this way, but is mostly treating this way that they're not even real people. Like, this isn't a real place or real problem. So you can kind of do whatever.
She kind of goes with it. And the other cars probably would play it off as like, that's not part of what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So we don't even like acknowledge it. So I kind of get why they don't bother with trying to be discreet.
Yeah.
But it's humorous and odd and all that stuff. But then the next time we see him, so Bud's like freaking out. Where's Mary Sue? I'm just worried about her. And his dad's like, she's growing up, Bud. By the way, can we just note?
Yeah.
This movie's perfect casting with William H. Macy and Joan Allen as the ma and pa.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
George and Betty.
I cannot imagine any other actor pulling like those specific characters off that well. They're so great in this role.
Yeah, they really are.
But I do love that Bud's dad is trying to tell him like, she's a grown woman.
She's going to be going out with boys.
Yeah, and you're like, you don't even sleep in the same bed as your wife.
Yeah. Much to your wife's chagrin, which we'll get to.
And then we see Jennifer and Skip pull up, and obviously the clothes are like in disarray. The hair's messed up. Yeah. She's super proud of herself. He looks so relaxed and confused and happy. Mm-hmm. That's normal.
Accurate.
That might be the most accurate shot of the whole movie is his face post-sex.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And she like walks up and he's freaking out like, what did you do? And she's like, you know what we did. Like, we didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Him driving away. And this is where we officially get shown and told the world of Pleasantville is changing.
Yeah.
Like,
the
momentum is there.
Consequences to disrupting all this stuff.
Yeah. And it's kind of a beautiful shot.
It is.
It's a red rose.
Yeah, Skip sees this single red rose amongst all the other black and white ones.
Yeah, and it's a really pretty shot. I really like, as the color starts transitioning into the world, I love those shots. You brought it up earlier where like there will be a lot of color and like one black and gray or black and white, and it looks so good. Like it's so beautiful to see.
There's a handful of them that stand out. It's just well framed and shot, and also well colorized. The one with the girl who has the pink bubble gum and everything else is black and white stands out, and then the one with that other girl who dates Bud, and she's all color with an umbrella, and everything else is still black and white. Yeah, they pop so great.
There's some beautiful cinematography, and just as that color is showing up, it's so cool. But yeah, so that's like, I think it's interesting that Skip is the first one to see it, considering his character doesn't really develop from that point.
Yeah.
In fact, we don't really see Skip again until everything's kind of like crescendoed into chaos.
Yeah.
But we'll get to the chaos in a bit.
Yeah.
I actually don't want to skip the stuff leading up to it, because it does have a really crazy but well thought out kind of progression on how these characters respond.
Well, there's an important part that Skip has where he kind of is the focal point that.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, we do see him talking to the basketball team the very
next day. Bud shows up to basketball practice and nobody is shooting baskets. They're all gathered around Skip, and he's talking to them. You don't hear what he's saying, but you can telling them all about this stuff. And then the coach comes in and says, "Okay, let's start practice." And everybody misses their shot because they're all broken or thinking about sex or whatever it is.
And Bud or David has that great line, which part of me assumes. So he says, "Where the hell are we?" when they first get into Pleasantville, and he gets told like, "You can't talk like that."
Yeah.
Part of me took that as a rule of the world being established, which would almost mean you can't curse anymore. Like following,
like you physically are unable to.
Yeah. Like the character of Bud won't allow you to curse anymore.
Okay, I took it more as like, you shouldn't do that because nobody else does and it's frowned upon, and they will.
There could be that, but part of me wondered if, like, because some rules of Pleasantville apply up until the change starts rolling.
There are very real rules, not just like social, but like, I think we skipped over the part where Mary Sue says, "What is going on here? Nothing burns even." She tries to burn a handkerchief. And so,
we skipped the firemen.
So like, physics and all of like the basic rules of the universe are completely different. Yeah.
Firemen are there, but they don't fight fires. They're there to rescue cats and trees.
Yeah.
I can't believe we forgot to mention that, because they mentioned that right before she even sees Skip.
Yeah. And that's an important
So
setup.
Part of me, I'm not saying that's what I take that as, but I could almost see it as like the repairman reminding him of like, the rules of Pleasantville.
Yeah.
You can't do this. But now the change has happened, and like a big drastic change. So we got color, and suddenly the basketball team can't make a single shot.
Yeah.
And Bud has that great line of just, "Oh shit." And part of me wonders if his "oh shit," and I wouldn't know because the stupid director did not include filmmaking like decisions in his commentary. I'm going to say this a lot during this because when I watched it bothered me so much.
Yeah.
But I personally like the idea that suddenly he's allowed to say that in this world.
Yeah.
Whether that's the case or not.
Yeah.
Who knows? But I personally like that idea because it just adds more to the like, all the rules are just kind of getting erased all of a sudden.
Yeah.
They're being replaced with we don't know what.
Yeah.
So I personally like that idea. Whether that's true or not, who knows? But that's I stick with that now.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
I made that decision this week.
Yeah, so as everyone's made aware of, so at first you think sex is what's ruining everything, and the fact that there is sex and people are talking about sex.
Like the next shot of Lover's Lane is sex with one of the weirdest positions, by the way, that I don't know if many people have caught. Did you catch this?
I don't think so.
So it's the second car that it pans past.
Okay.
You see the guy's feet sticking out the passenger side, and then you see the girl's feet sticking out the driver's side.
That's a totally legitimate move.
That you would think they're closer, but like the length of their legs would claim that certain position is not actually.
Okay, they're all virgins. They're trying to figure it out. Okay, they don't have.
So they're making out upside down.
Maybe it's Spider-Man, but lying down.
It is Tobey Maguire, so he could have like I made out upside down.
Yeah, totally legitimate.
Like, okay, I'm going to add to that. That's adventurous if that's the position that this second car decides to first try out.
It's true.
Damn.
Yeah. Some people certainly are more adventurous than others in this world.
Like, you're skipping the actual act, and you're just straight going like, you know what? I want mine in your mouth, yours in mine. Like, we're doing this. They're not going to call it 69 because I can't imagine they would get that reference. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if that's the first thing they choose, like, holy shit.
Yeah. Some people are, I think, more. That's kind of the interesting thing. Some people have their free will kind of being awoken within them.
Yeah.
Bill, the malt shop proprietor, is one of those where he's like, as soon as he stops doing his routine, he's kind of immediately fed up with routine. And he's like, I don't want to make hamburgers for everybody. I want to do other things. I want to do new things. I want to try new things. I want to be adventurous. And
yeah, he like abandons running a diner and turns it into an art studio essentially.
Yeah. And to the point where Bud has to sit him down. He's like, sometimes you have to do your job, even if you don't want to like do it. You just have to do what you don't want to do so that everybody can have hamburgers. Like that's just what it is.
This is just how things kind of have to go, which is a weird thing for him to be saying as he's kind of the catalyst that caused this whole...
Well, Mary Sue's the catalyst for sure.
But remember, you can argue him stopping the wiping is at least a catalyst for Bill.
Yes.
For Mr. Johnson.
That's true. He does. And he does instruct him. He's like, if I'm not here, you can just put the lettuce on the hamburgers and
he's telling him like you're allowed to change
and
up.
So Bill has to close up without him because he left to go home.
He's so proud when he does that. I love how Jeff Bridges plays that.
Bill Johnson, the malt shop guy, is probably my favorite character of the movie.
Yeah,
just his growth and the way Jeff Bridges plays him, or Daniels. Thank you. Jeff Daniels plays him. It's his growth and everything. His through line through the story is so good.
He plays it very much like a kid learning new things. And it's really cool to see him play it that way.
Yeah.
Because he is very innocent.
He's innocent, but he is learning. He's like, as you tell him one thing, he's like going to take it and build on it. And he has his own autonomy. And even though, so David kind of tries to preserve the show. He tries to be like, well, he has that line where he's like, they're not real people. You can't treat them like that. So he does try to help them live their lives the way that they were.
Yeah.
Which is a weird thing. Which is separate from Jennifer. She at least kind of sees them as real people and encourages them to do new things and all that stuff. But it's having both of them are having an impact on their culture.
Well, David's attempt to preserve stuff, it really doesn't last long.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know if it lasts half of the time that they're there. I think pretty much after the mistake or the faux pas basketball shooting happens, he's kind of like, oh, dang. Like, well, where do we go from here?
He kind of tries to for a long time, but it is conflicted. Like he does. Maybe it's hypocritical. Maybe it's just contextual. He does do those things with Bill, but up into the point of like that girl who bakes cookies, he's like, no, you need to bake those for Whitey.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And that's pretty late. And then there's a point where he's like, just throws caution to the wind. He's like, I'm going to go out with her. And that's when Don Knopf shows up again.
I go out with her. I would have accepted those cookies right out the gate. I do like how she like has that kind of no, I made them for you. Like, she's had it. Like, get the point, dude.
Yeah.
Like, and then you meet Whitey later on, and you're like, I'm glad she didn't make cookies.
Yeah,
for that
Whitey sucks. Also, after what you've said about Gary Ross,
I knew that was about to click in for you.
I was like, that's a more obviously chosen name than I originally thought it would be.
Yeah, that was not by accident.
Because Whitey is like a 50s style. Oh, Whitey, But now it's like, oh no, he's just white people in general. So as things are changing, different objects and parts of people's body are changing color. I love when that girl, like, her tongue changes color. And so the doctor's answer to everything is like, maybe eat less sweets and fatty foods.
Yeah, lay off the fatty foods, lay off the sweets.
And that'll clear up. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Yeah, they're all playing poker around all the moms are playing poker around the table, gossiping and dealing cards. And sorry, I smacked this.
Okay.
It's like balanced barely. You guys can't see it, but it's barely balanced. It's delicate situation here. So Bud's mom, I love her character. I love how Joan Allen plays her because she's so like quietly absorbing the change. She's kind of afraid of it, but she's very curious about it. But you can tell she's like, how do I inquire without sounding eager? Because you obviously, with her conversation with Mary Sue, she's very eager.
Yeah, I took that exact same note. I said, Betty the mom is very curious.
Yeah. And her cards are red. I love that her cards are red as she's quietly intrigued and wanting to know more, and no one else's cards are turning, because I like that idea. And the movie does it for the most part, where people who are being directly a part of change in Pleasantville are the ones that have color on them or around them.
Yeah.
So I really like that she has the cards near her. She kind of freaks out. And I always wonder, though, because the scene cuts shortly after you see the cards.
So you had to play those cards, right?
Yeah, you still had to play, or did you just fold and hope that, like, as the cards get dealt again, they get spread out, and then all the other moms would be like, oh, my God.
Yeah.
Because they haven't caught on to the people are the ones changing stuff. So
yeah,
that's how I kind of have to figure it. But yeah, I'm like, you still were playing. You can't.
Right. I had the same thought. I was like, you have all of these hearts. You have a flush of hearts going on. You're gonna have to play those, and everyone's gonna see them.
You're probably gonna win because she's the main mom.
Yeah, and she seems kind of, I guess, embarrassed by it.
Yeah,
and it's interesting. But yeah, then she has that conversation with Mary Sue, and she is very trying to ask her what goes on at Lover's Lane. Do
you really want to know?
Yes. Yeah. So she has to have the very stereotypical sex talk with her mom, her TV mom now, and it starts very stereotypically when two people love each other.
But then it turns. It's a very interesting choice that they have it turn from just basic sex, because she this isn't the next scene.
Yeah.
This is a little bit. Should we go with the scene, or should we kind of fill in the gap there?
We can go with the scene.
Okay. So Mary Sue tells her, there's ways you can do this without Dad.
Yeah, because she's like, your dad would never go for any of that kind of stuff.
Right.
He would never do that stuff.
And as a kid, I remember that scene and being like, I don't get what she's talking about. I get what they're talking about.
That's good. I could tell you off air if you needed to know.
Thanks, Jake.
Okay.
I'm a growing boy. I think it's just so funny. And honestly, that's kind of there's not too many non-comical masturbation references in comedies.
Yeah. Or movies in general.
It's usually part of a joke.
Right.
And you can kind of tell that it's kind of a silly moment, but they play it very Mary Sue's not joking. And
Yeah.
you're like, Mary Sue gets down. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. And the mom, Betty, is exploring her body.
She does.
In the bathtub, as you do.
She's getting loud.
And she has obviously the orgasm heard around the world.
It sets fire to a tree.
It literally. That was like the weirdest thing. Is like this lady's orgasm literally changes the physics of the universe, where nothing has burned before, and now this tree in the front yard is on fire,
like
spontaneously combusts.
Spontaneously, it's a big fire.
Yeah.
And how odd is it that her son has to put out her?
I didn't think about that, but
fire.
That is odd. Christy made a funny joke. She said the fire was caused by her burning loins.
You're like, yup.
Accurate.
I still find myself curious to know what the dad's response was.
Right?
Like, what kind of question do you ask of, honey?
Are you okay?
Are you okay? Or
sounds like you're having a heart attack or something.
Are you alive?
Yeah. Yeah, that the entire bathroom just kind of like gets lit up in color, different things immediately. You can tell this is a very strong or powerful experience that is making the whole room more colorful than anything else.
Well, you said it. She's getting to know herself.
Yeah.
She is, it's a very intimate thing that she's doing. Mm-hmm. And she really wakes up after that.
Yeah. She's exposed to a whole new world after that. but
cut myself off before we had to pay royalty.
That's good. That's good. Don't want Disney coming after us. Bud is like the only one that knows how to put out the fire because nothing's ever burned before. So he gets the fire department and helps them and the fireman's like, oh, that's what a hose does.
Yeah.
We always just had them. I never knew what they did.
They were set decorations.
Yeah. So it's that whole thing, obviously the changing of the world, not just in color, but in how things behave.
Yep.
And things can be on fire now. Is very significant, obviously.
Well, and suddenly Bud's a local hero.
He gets a medal for putting out the first fire ever.
And people want to how did you know how to do this? And he has that purposeful mess up on the writer's part.
Okay.
Mess up in the world of Pleasantville.
Yeah.
Where he says, well, where I'm originally from, that's what you do. But the world's already been established that Pleasantville is kind of this is where they're from.
And the character of Bud was obviously born there.
Yeah.
He's lived with his family his whole life there. And so definitely a mess up on his part where he's speaking as David, not as Bud.
Right. Not an actual movie goof. That is a mistake on David's part.
Yeah, in character.
And he tells people, he kind of catches himself as he says that. And they're like, what? Where are you from? What? There's stuff outside of Pleasantville? And then he has to kind of tell them, there's a whole bunch of stuff, actually, which ends up leading later on a callback to that moment. Yeah,
I love that scene in the diner when he's telling people where he's kind of from, how he learned how to do that. Mm-hmm. And then this one kid's he's talking about all the different things out there in the world. And then this one kid's like, you mean the mighty Mississippi? And
yeah.
David's like, how do you know what that is? And then Mary Sue, or Jennifer, I guess, she's like, okay, so this is my fault. It's not my fault, but I did kind of start to tell them about Tom Sawyer and these books.
So this is what we jumped over.
Okay.
Mary Sue has this freak out moment with David.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Jennifer with David.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where she's like, did you know the books are blank? I went to the library. All the books are blank.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, what? So that it's been established that even literature doesn't really exist in this world. Everything's just a prop.
Right.
And so, they bring out, and she has that I tried telling them what I remember, but I only remember the first half or whatever. And the book filled itself in.
Yeah. As they describe the details of Tom Sawyer, the book fills in all the rest of the story up to the point she remembered.
Yeah.
And then so they're like, do you know the end of it? Because we would really like to know. And he's like, starts to tell him. And then he sees the book actually fill in, which is a really cool
like the next chapter, the artwork of it, the words, everything starts appearing. And
I love the next kid. The next kid's like, here, do this one. Have you read this one? And then he's like, oh, I love this one. Holden Caulfield is this really sad kid. And like the camera's kind of pulling back out of the diner and it starts getting kind of quiet, but you can barely hear him say, Holden Caulfield is this really sad kid.
Yeah.
And for people that don't know, that's from Catcher in the Rye, which is one of the most banned books in history.
Right.
That people are like not allowed to read and all that stuff.
It's the book that inspired the guy that shot Lennon to shoot John Lennon.
Yeah. And somebody else.
Ronald Reagan, wasn't it?
It might have been. The movie Conspiracy Theory, if you watch it, Mel Gibson always has to find Catcher in the Rye because several different assassins or attempted assassins have had it, and he always has to buy it.
Yeah, he always has to find a copy of it.
Yeah.
And he has many copies of it.
Great movie.
Yeah, so that's like the diner. So suddenly, not only is like David this local hero, but suddenly he's like, he knows all of this stuff. So he's almost put on this.
He's like an oracle or something.
Yeah, like he's put on this echelon of, oh my God.
Yeah.
He's the guy.
Yeah.
And he totally embraces that.
Yeah.
He doesn't shy away from it or even try to be like, oh, no, I'm good. He's all about like, yep.
Yeah, it kind of gives him purpose, I guess, in an interesting way. He's able to be that. Like we said before, he's been trying to find confidence.
Yeah.
And I think he's established it in this world. And now he can start to be himself in this world in a weird way where he can draw on his personal experiences and help them with information that they didn't have or couldn't have before.
But yeah, and then that's when we get like the cookies.
Mm-hmm.
And at the point of the cookies, it's not just like little objects randomly that are being colored. Like entire people are now showing up in full color.
Yeah, which is one of the things that I'm sure was on the director's commentary. It's one of the most socially political parts of the movie that I
actually only brought up the whole colored part.
Colored people?
One time.
Okay.
One time.
That seems like most of the point of that part of the movie.
It was with the sign that's in the window, and he goes, obviously this kind of speaks for itself. And that's where he leaves it. It was like, what?
Yeah. That's so disappointing because the rest of the movie describes it better. Like when you start seeing colored people, quote unquote, I'm going to say that, don't cancel me, they're still white.
That's what they get called in the film.
Yeah. And it's very obvious. They are colored. The rest of the people are not. Colorized, maybe a better way to say it. But these colored people are treated a little differently. There's obviously something different about them or something going on that why they changed, nobody knows.
Yeah.
And so there's an awkwardness in the society there.
To me, this is like not even anything to do with like social issues or with racism and all that. I've always taken this like, there's the obvious parallel that like this is an obvious metaphor. But the way the town responds to that, like the ones that are still stuck in black and white, the way they respond to this change, I've always taken it as a very natural human instinct where when there's significant change, typically it incites fear out of the unknown.
Yeah. And a group of people are different for some reason that you don't fully understand.
Yeah.
And so you feel that difference.
There's like there's this fear, and through that fear, instead of just trying to kind of learn or adapt, there's like this pushback.
Yeah.
And that's where like at least in Pleasantville, like the violence kind of starts coming toward. To me, this is how I always took it until I listen to his stupid commentary.
Yeah.
But this is still, to me, this still makes more sense.
Yeah.
And to me, it fits the narrative of the film way more.
Right.
Just because of how, like, to me, the movie is all about change.
Yeah.
How we need change, whether we want it or not.
Mm-hmm.
It's inevitable. At some point, we have to adapt and learn.
Yeah.
And explore. Like, at some point, we have to move on.
Yeah.
So,
there's a lot of things. I haven't listened to the commentary, but I'm assuming things about him based on what you've said and his ideology. Things about this movie are interesting to me because a lot of people treat these like nostalgia pieces or family values or a tradition as bad, and that progress is always good.
Mm-hmm.
And I like my perspective of watching Pleasantville is that that's not necessarily the case. There are things about family values and tradition that were good. There were things about that were also limiting for some people, that they would have liked to experience more life or anything like that. And then as things progress, sometimes you force progress or forcing progress or forcing people to stay back are both bad. And you see both in the movie.
Yeah.
And moving forward has a lot of good things in it, but it also makes things a lot worse in some ways too for certain people. So there's that back and forth conflict, and it's hard to find that balance. And I think the complexity is always what's very interesting.
Yeah.
And about the movie and about life, I think it captures that allegory well.
Yeah, and that's how I've always I like your perspective on it. I like mine, obviously, but I've always really liked the idea of art is subjective. It should be subjective to the viewer. Mm-hmm. So to have the director come out and be like, "Oh no, it's staunch this," I was kind of like, in a way, you're kind of like the mayor.
Yeah,
you're kind of like.
This
Dude,
is what
you should have
be.
been more like, I want to leave as much open to interpretation because I think the way you and I view this movie is way more interesting. Yes, I'm biased. But I do think that's how it should have been viewed. I'm now really curious to see how, like, I might have to talk to a few other people. Like, what was your take on the message of the film, to see like how many people took something a little different from it, or if they all took one thing. But the way that like Whitey and his friend pull up, they're like ragging on Bud and
they call him literally his colored girlfriend.
Yeah. To me, obviously they're very much a metaphor for like racism and stuff.
Yeah.
But I definitely, the way they burn the books and just like the next couple scenes, I really take a lot of that as just like, oh crap, everything's rapidly changing. Everything is rapidly like opening up. There's suddenly free will. There's suddenly open-mindedness, and that scares a lot of people. So they react certain ways. Now, the book burning is so reminiscent. It's so obviously reminiscent, I should say.
Yeah. Going to the extreme of literally burning books is it's unavoidable.
It's Nazi Germany. So and the director did say that in his commentary. He was also very much like, this is obviously taken from like video footage of Nazi Germany when they confiscated and burned literature. So
thank you for explaining the most obvious thing in the movie.
Right. Still mad. I wanted to learn what made you do these shots. What made you make this decision with like the makeup, with the lighting, with I still want to hear about the casting. He mentioned casting like once with Joan Allen, and that was it. Or maybe once again with Reese Witherspoon, but it wasn't what I am used to hearing with commentaries. There was no fun on set stories. There was no like, well, we had to do several takes because they kept breaking, or we just couldn't get the shot just right.
Yeah. And there are so many subtleties in Pleasantville. Some of my favorite things about commentaries is when a director's like, oh, see that little thing that nobody is ever going to notice or think about? Here's the weird story about how that got there, or how we had to do this in order to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's my favorite.
I was so disappointed in this commentary. But, I mean, back on track with what's going on in the film, because I think we jumped ahead with the book burning.
Oh, for sure. One of the, I guess, main things or important things that happen is the mayor does come and talk to George, the dad, and he's like, all these people are changing. We need to do something about this. Do you want to like team up, support my campaign, all this stuff? And then George is like, calls his wife. He's like, let's have some sandwiches or whatever. And she doesn't come to like serve him.
Right.
And so that's very awkward. And then Bud's like, oh, I guess I'll go get her. And he goes in there and she's at the sink and she's like, when she turns around, her whole face and all of her skin are now colorized.
Yeah.
And she's so embarrassed and she can't go out there. And so there's a very sweet scene where he helps her apply makeup in order to kind of cover it up. And her character is so interesting. I think that's such an important scene for her, where she is, again, having to cover up who she really is and what she really wants, which she's been doing for a long time in her relationship with her husband. Now she's literally doing it with makeup and her skin and stuff. But who she is and what she likes and what she wants, she can't talk to her husband about. She can't talk about, I had an orgasm and it's amazing. I would like to do that with you more.
Right.
And now she's just so alone, I guess.
Yeah, she's so alone. I also take it as she hasn't really known anything about herself for so long. Yeah. So suddenly she wants to know kind of what is life to her?
She's only existed to help her husband or to serve him.
And so a lot of her decision making for several, I guess, for several just kind of in general people would be very like questionable or wait a minute, what are you doing? We're going to get to that. But watching it again this time around, and I usually have those thoughts, watching it this time around where I was really focusing on like the subtleties, or let's really focus on this character development, see what they're doing. I take it a lot of it as she doesn't view her marriage as like an actual marriage, because it's not.
Yeah.
She doesn't know herself. She flat out like, I need to figure out who I am. This is bringing up more, but it's so interesting to me because she makes weird decisions, but at the same time, she kind of like is trying to find a way of balance.
Yeah.
We'll get to that, but
yeah, that's interesting what you said about she doesn't really have a relationship with her husband at all. There's no relationship. I mean, it's literally a TV marriage. They were cast together. They have scenes together, screen time, but they don't have any sort of real relationship.
Yeah, there's no communication between them. There's no affection really between them.
Certainly.
So her decisions pretty soon are very, and I think this scene has a lot to do with her final, like, I have to do this.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, thank you, IMDb, for providing actual production notes. The makeup that Bud applies to her was bright green.
Oh, really?
They used the blue screen or the green screen technique with the makeup.
Interesting.
So they had him apply bright green makeup, which can, like, this is the stuff I was like, this should be on a making of.
Yeah.
This would be, because I imagine everyone was breaking constantly, seeing her standing there in bright, vibrant green makeup, just completely covered in it.
So did they go to so after they start applying like little pieces, and obviously there are streaks of gray that they're adding in like darker lipstick, but then they show the scene of her done, and I was thinking that's so interesting because it's probably just her filmed in black and white again, like normal.
Oh, she was standing in makeup.
That's hilarious.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, that's amazing.
I love that. I was like, it's one of my favorite things. Like, what a brilliant thing. Instead of trying to like just paint gray, because the lighting of just gray actually doesn't work with black and white, like digitation and film. So they figured the best way to do this and pull this off is we're going to green screen it, but with makeup. So we're using the bright green, and we're just going to use the. I think that kind of stuff is incredible. Like, how do you even come to that decision? Like, how do you do this? It's so cool.
Yeah.
Fucking didn't talk about it.
The worst.
Well, I think he mentions it real quick, but it's like, it's one of those things where I want to learn more about like what led you to that decision. Like, what was it like filming with that?
Did you try doing it other ways and it just didn't work? Yeah. Because that wouldn't be my first way to do it. Would be probably this other way, but maybe they did that and it looked terrible. But you wouldn't know until they tell you.
And I want to see the bloopers. I feel like I would laugh very hard for the first handful of takes. We're just walking in, bright green.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
It is a beautiful moment though, where Bud is applying it, because it's almost like the first time she's had care.
Right. Someone taking care of her, kind of.
Like kind of putting her first. Like her needs are being handled for the first time in her existence.
Definitely.
So I definitely take this whole thing with her embarrassment of like, oh crap, I'm all in color. She's obviously heard them freaking out about it, so she really can't walk out there.
Right.
For fear of whether herself or fear for what's going to happen to George.
Yeah.
If they see his wife is like this.
Yeah, she doesn't want to embarrass him and this guy.
So I feel like all of this is leading up to, her decision to venture outside.
And that scene I think is also important for David.
Yeah.
Partly because it comes back later with his real life mom. But I think he's connecting with Betty, his TV mom, in a way that he hasn't really connected with a mother figure before.
He's really viewing the people of Pleasantville suddenly as people, not as characters in a TV show.
Right.
And him having to apply that makeup, him having to see all of this change and this joy that's kind of like sweeping through. God, stop it. I think he's really having like kind of a. And he accepts it very well, almost flawlessly. Just like, okay, they're real. They're actually experiencing life. So suddenly I need to, like, I'll be a part of it. And he is. I mean, he's kind of their guru. What you call it, the oracle?
Yeah. And that's a good point, because I think the next scene or very shortly after, he brings Bill an art book. Like, he recognizes, okay, Bill really cares about. He talked to me about, I am super annoyed by the monotony of making hamburgers, but I really love once a year I get to paint the murals in the windows for Christmas time. And I wish, it's stupid to wait all year to do that. I wish I could paint more. And so Bud brings him a book of art, and it's fully colorized. And so he gets to see in vivid detail historically significant paintings, including one of my personal favorite paintings, The Starry Night by Van Gogh. It's just the color, especially, just everything pops, and it's so perfect. And Bill loves it. He thinks it's incredible, but he's like, I can't do any of this because where am I going to see colors like that? I just couldn't possibly.
Yeah.
And then he eventually gets to, or tries to, and he starts painting. He just loves painting.
And I love, he does paint. And it's so awesome when he does. And it's like this cubed Santa Claus in the window.
Yeah.
So I do really love that because he mentions, I always paint Santa. I love that he's stuck with what he knows, but he used what he knows as like this diving board into other stuff. And it really does set him off to like, well, I'm going to paint a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Naked ladies.
Naturally.
I'm not joking. He paints a naked lady. You're going to hear about it in just a little bit.
For the whole world to see.
Yeah. Whole world. I love, so that scene with the book is really a scene to me where suddenly the music of the movie almost becomes a character by itself because the music is so beautiful and it moves these characters so well. Like as the music kind of builds and crescendos, it's always with that moment, that character specifically is like living suddenly. They're being shown beauty they haven't known. They've obviously been blinded to. And I love the music in it. It's so simple. It's such a simple score.
Yeah.
But it's so, God, it works so well with this film.
Yeah. So I think right after that is when we talked about before, Bud decides, hey, I'm going to ask that girl out. Even though she's supposed to bake the cookies for Whitey. Let's just go for it.
Things are changing. Shit's different.
Yeah.
So,
and why can't I find love?
Yeah.
And so he's going to ask her out, and he does. And he gets super excited when she says yes. And then as soon as he goes home, Don Knotts shows up again. He's like, hey, what are you doing?
And he ruins his joy. What a dick. I love how he walks it. When Tobey Maguire runs in that house, I love it because he slams the door. Woohoo!
Yeah.
Like, yep. Yep.
He's very excited. But yeah, Don Knotts is like, he says the exact same thing that David said at first. Those cookies were for Whitey, and you're totally screwing everything up. And you said you were a fan, and you're supposed to follow the rules, and you're not. And Bud's like, oh, no, the reception's terrible. I don't want to listen to you. I'm going to turn it off. And so he totally rejects his opinion, I guess.
Yeah, he is all like he's officially decided I'm going to abandon the nostalgia of Pleasantville.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to let anyone else try to like ruin this. And he really becomes like a hero of the story just in his fight against maintaining these old fashioned ways.
Right.
That like he really is kind of the hero of the story, him and Mary Sue with her sexy times.
Well, she's interesting because she has like the opposite story of everyone else.
I love her character arc.
Yeah.
I was kind of trying to hold off on her character arc just a little bit, but let's do it. Her character.
It kind of comes up right after this because
awesome.
Bud goes up to talk to her and she's reading a book and she's like, I can't believe you made this dorky fad where everybody in town is now reading books because the books have words in them now. So everybody's reading them.
Right.
And so she's like, I've picked up this book from D.H. Lawrence and because it sounded sexy. So she's still like, sex is cool. Like, that's what I'm into. But she's reading, like she's starting to learn.
She's
become more bookish. Like her actual character, Mary Sue, is very bookish, nerdy kind of person.
And Jennifer is really, I mean, she complains, she asks like, why am I still in black and white?
Yeah.
I've had way more sex than all of these people. And you're like, damn.
Yeah.
Poor Skip.
Yeah. So, yeah, you originally thought that sex was making the color happen, but it seems like that's may not be the case completely. There's sex is a piece, at least for some people, but for other people, it's other things.
Yeah, and she's really kind of falling into this personal development. Instead of just trying to please all these other people through sex or getting like a surface kind of pleasure or surface growth.
Yeah.
She's really kind of starting to like go the other way where she's trying to build up her intellect. Yeah, she's reading this book. It's a big book.
Yeah.
And she's kind of like settling down. And I love how she does that. And they don't really focus on it. It's just real quick, like she happens to be reading a book.
It's very subtle.
Skip shows up at her window throwing rocks at it, and she denies him. She's like, no, I want to study. Like, what are you doing?
Are we going to have sex now?
Yeah, I'm studying. Go home. And she doesn't even give him a chance to like argue. She just closes the window like, fuck off. Like, good on you, Mary Sue or Jennifer.
Yeah.
Pick one. I love how they develop her character in that direction because they give you like a very surface character, very just plain cliche, and they really build her into something that's like, oh no, she's a great character. Like she grows a lot.
Right.
And she actually finds kind of happiness through like learning.
Right. Yeah, she finds more, I guess, purpose for herself, finds what she wants to do, and just makes decisions for herself that's not just around boys or acceptance of boys, or like you mentioned, daddy issues. She wants ultimately acceptance from her dad, but can't have that. So she grows beyond that and learns to figure out what she wants to do.
Yeah, she's really like creating this whole independence,
right?
Which is awesome, and I think that's actually what I wish that would have been brought up, because that's how I take her character of like she's really just on this journey of independent, like strong independence, and she really does find it.
Yeah,
it's really cool how she finds it. And she just chooses one day, like, I've read this book, I'm sticking with it. And she even like argues, this is the only book I've ever read, don't take this. And I love that she's clinging to that. It's almost like that book will always be a reminder of her choice to change,
right?
Which is when she turns color. So
it's kind of and I think a lot of people have that. Books that you read, especially early on in life, they start to form parts of you and parts of your personality and things that you think. And so that's a very important book to her because it changed her and it helped her grow. And that's kind of one of the things I like about the movie. And we talked about it a little bit, how it treats art and how books, especially books in the movie, as they start to get filled in and people start to learn things, books are like, they're obviously something that we take for granted, I think, because they're everywhere and you've always had them in your life. But there's something so common about them and ordinary. But it struck me in this movie how profoundly powerful they are.
Yeah.
Obviously, an idea, if you really think about it, is an extremely powerful thing. And this movie captures that. An idea can change their whole world. But books are the ability to take an idea and spread it to a ton of different people very, very easily.
Yeah.
And so to show those books and how important they are, and then how people try to suppress those things and ban them or burn them, it's so hugely, obviously impactful. And the visualization, the way it's portrayed, is more powerful than I could describe in words right now.
Right.
But that's one of the things, one of the takeaways that I certainly have from it, that it's done in a great way. And that's throughout history, has always been true, will always be true.
Yeah. I find it funny, very interesting, that you caught on to like this importance of books aspect of the story and how their impact on society can be so huge. You don't read.
I watch movies, and that gives me what I need.
I'm calling you out. But yeah, like the town suddenly. So before the town freaks out, because there's one very important, very massive thing that happens. It is art. It is a painting. Right? Or am I jumping ahead? Nope, I jumped ahead.
Because Bud takes that girl to Lover's Lane.
That's right.
Which has the Garden of Eden stuff, which we need to get into. So when Bud drives her out there, it's very beautiful and romantic as all these like cherry blossoms are falling.
That drive into Lover's Lane is one of the best shot scenes of like the 90s. It's so great because you genuinely feel that you have entered this whole completely different world.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's just beautiful. It's so pretty. Like immediately calming. And you find yourself as a viewer just like, oh, I want to be there. I want to sit in that grass.
Yeah. You can kind of tell that Lover's Lane is the epicenter. We haven't seen it since the very beginning of the movie, but it is, everything is colored. You haven't seen that before yet. And so everything, except for a couple of people and maybe a couple cars, are still black and white. But everything in the area is full color, full grass.
All the grass, the trees,
flowers,
the gazebo, flowers, the water, everything is full color.
Yeah.
So they're there having like a picnic. And there's this great shot where the girl runs over picks an apple from a tree,
Mm-hmm.
and feeds it to Bud.
Yeah. Offers it to him. She's like, here, try this.
Yeah. And he's like, okay. Like, he bites the apple, and then we get the storms again. Because we've gotten hints of, like, the thunderstorms, but there hasn't been a thunderstorm yet that we've seen.
And the people of the town don't know anything about rain.
Rain?
Yeah. I guess they know of rain, they just never experienced it.
And it starts to rain, and everyone's freaking out. They run to the gazebo, and Bud or David is like the only one that's kind of like, okay, you're like, let's go over here.
Mm-hmm.
They all join under the gazebo, and everyone's like, what is happening? And he tells them it's okay. It's just a little rain. And that's when you get the line, some real rain?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah. And he does that part where he like, it's okay. And he steps out, he opens his arms, and it's a complete blatant rip-off shot from the Shawshank Redemption.
Which I got because I've seen Shawshank now.
According to IMDb, and I can't remember if he said it on his commentary because I was kind of falling asleep at this point because I was so tired of hearing him. He apparently had no clue that this scene, this exact shot, was done in the Shawshank Redemption. He thought he was original.
It's so exact that I thought it had to be a reference.
Yeah, like it is. I think the only difference in the shot is he doesn't pull as far away.
Okay.
But the angle, the rain, the way his arms are spread in the rain.
Of the thousands of movies I've seen, I can think of 2 that have this basic shot in it.
Right. So I kind of question his claim of, I had no clue this was done, considering that one screenshot everybody in the world has seen.
Right.
Like, since that movie came out, everyone has seen that screenshot.
Yeah.
Now, I still love that scene of him in the rain. And it kind of got me thinking, because I've always, for a long time, I should say, I've always used rain as more of a metaphor of kind of like a cleansing of life. Like you're kind of letting stuff wash off.
Right.
And watching Pleasantville again, I couldn't help but wonder, like, is this the movie that I kind of got that metaphor from?
Yeah.
I'm still not positive.
Yeah.
Because I could also make the same argument for Shawshank, which I saw before I saw Pleasantville.
Yeah.
Of using rain as like the freeing, not as like this doom kind of like, oh.
Right.
Because I really do. I get excited when there's thunderstorms. But I'm wondering now, which movie actually did it? Was it Shawshank? Which would give me the freeing feeling of rain. But I always use the rain as a metaphor of like it's cleansing, it's washing away, it's like. So I wonder, because that's kind of what they show in Pleasantville with this rain, is this rainstorm really brings on a huge change.
Yeah,
it really does literally wash away the black and white.
Yeah,
for almost the whole place.
Yeah, it's during this storm you have Bud and his new girlfriend at Lover's Lane.
Yeah.
You have George, William H. Macy, at his house, and he goes home and his wife's not there to fix his dinner, and he just wanders around going, "Where's my dinner?" So
I'm home.
Yeah. And so he goes to the bowling alley and tells the mayor, and he's like, "There's a real rain outside, and my wife's not home, and all of this sucks." So that kicks off the whole mayor's like vendetta against the town.
Right.
And then Betty and Bill are at the malt shop, and they're having a moment where they're talking about paintings. And this is one of the things you mentioned before, how the director and it would have been better to leave certain things open in interpretation. And I thought of this scene instantly, where art is subjective. It is open interpretation. And when Bill and Betty are both looking at that Picasso painting of that lady, Betty's like, "Oh, she's crying." And Bill's like, "No, she's not. What are you talking about?" Like, they interpret it in such different ways. But then she starts crying, and her makeup, which she's been using to cover up her rosy cheeks, starts going away. And so she's embarrassed. She tries to leave. And Bill is very accepting of who she actually is underneath. who she wants to be. And so that fuels their like romance, their actual romance.
Yeah.
And so he starts to paint her like one of his French girls, basically. And
I mean, not quite. I did jump ahead on the painting. He does paint her.
He does paint her.
But it's just like, it's a portrait of her at first.
Yeah.
But
naked shoulders, but nothing else.
Naked shoulders, which gives you the illusion that, because her clothes didn't just like,
yeah, she was wearing like a coat or a shirt or like a blazer kind of thing.
Yeah. So it does. Her and Bill are a very questionable. Are they or aren't they?
Yeah.
To me, I always kind of rethink of like As Good as It Gets with Helen Hunt and Greg Kinnear's characters, where they're not actually like lovers, but there's a certain level of intimacy there.
Yeah.
Through the artwork.
Yeah.
So I always, and I'm still even watching it this week, I was like, did they?
Yeah.
I mean, they're cuddling at one point, but did they?
Yeah. Yeah. You kind of assume because you want them to get together.
Yeah.
But there's no real evidence, I guess, of it.
Yeah, there's nothing concrete about them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I've always loved Bill's acceptance of her and kind of like, no, you should show this off. And this is kind of like, so the town wakes up the next morning though, and it starts off with like Lover's Lane, and everybody's in color now, except David.
Yeah.
Which, this is a shot I'm assuming you were talking about.
Yeah.
Where they do that pan up and everything's just vibrant and beautiful. And David's sitting on the bank, still black and white. His reflection's black and white. And they do that like close up of him.
Yeah.
And he's just sitting there. And you got to think like, why?
Yeah.
Why are you not, you've been the hero. You've been kind of like the guy that forced this change, or at least been a huge tool for the change. Why are you still black and white? And you kind of learn subtly that although he's been accepting everyone as people, he's not fully like engaged with them. He hasn't fully, I guess, accepted that or whatever. He hasn't made that personal deep connection quite yet.
Yeah. And he has his own arc where he has, the colorization seems to mostly be specific to each character, what their story is, what they're going through, and what they're trying to overcome. And when they do overcome it, then they get colorized. And so courage is one of his kind of things, and confidence. And so he's been dabbling in that, but hasn't fully just like stepped into himself.
Yeah.
And so I think you were going to when he does get colorized, and it's caused by when Bill does paint Betty fully nude and puts it in the window. He has the cojones to put in the window of the malt shop a fully naked lady, and so now a bunch of assholes are like harassing her and like I guess catcalling or whatever. Like they're following her around and being very aggressive. And so they're following her into like an alley kind of. And then Bud decides to step in again and save her and help her. He kind of started to with like the makeup stuff, but now he's fully like just clocks a guy in the face.
Right. Which actually is super important. It's the first scene of violence in the entire film.
Yeah. Yeah. So there are certain things that have never happened. Obviously, sex is the first one that you see. But yeah, violence comes very much later.
Yeah, and him punching Whitey and causing Whitey to bleed. And the blood, like, it's blood. It's red.
Yeah, even though Whitey's still black and white.
Yeah. And then Bud's all in color. But that quick act of violence, and it's almost immediately after that, violence kind of comes calling to Pleasantville with a vengeance. Like I need to make up for lost time.
Right.
You're going to riot.
Yeah.
We're going to set fire to stuff. We are
break
going
windows with rocks.
Yeah. Like it gets a little crazy.
Yeah.
Short-lived, but crazy. But we're also, because of that violence, it's also added into the mayor suddenly, who becomes like kind of the antagonist,
right?
Or at least a pseudo antagonist.
Yeah, he's becoming tyrannical in his quest to maintain the past.
Yeah.
And he puts this like group together, and they basically, I guess they're a council of people who are trying to enact these rules of, you need to do this music is banned, you can't do this, and you need to go
Their
here.
list of rules cracks me up, because the first two, you're very much like, that's not bad.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we should be good to each other.
Yeah.
Or we should be pleasant.
Be pleasant, yeah.
And you're like, whatever. And then you get the banning of certain music. Here's the only music you're allowed to listen to. Banning of painting. Banning of art.
Specific colors you can paint with
colors.
black and white and gray, but that's it.
Yeah. And you're very much on the side of like the townspeople who are suddenly like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that one guy who gets up and he's like, hey, the jukebox still works.
Yeah.
And he tries to play a song.
Yeah, we should say like the place that gets rioted and completely destroyed is the malt shop.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was the paint thing in the window is one of the main things that they're after, but they do destroy pretty much everything else.
They just kind of go out of control.
Yeah. And so this one guy decides to like play a song on the jukebox, cheer people up, you know? And this one girl's like, that's not one of the approved songs. That's banned. We're all going to get in trouble. And it's such a like sad thing that this thing that was fine 5 minutes ago is now like illegal, and they're going to get in huge trouble.
Right. Like you're going to get punished. Like it's bad. And yeah, she says like, you can't do that because they said so. And this is probably my favorite Bud moment or David moment. I imagine when I watched it this week, I was like, oh, I bet Jake loves this part too.
David is an anarchist. He's like, you know what? You should play whatever music you want.
He just kind of looks at her when she's like, you can't do that. And he's like, yeah, we can.
Yeah. Watch me push play, and no one's gonna die. Yeah. It's fine.
And I love how like everyone just lets it happen. They all bounce their feet to the beat.
Yeah.
And then Bud ups the ante. Him and Bill decide to paint one last huge painting.
Yeah.
But not on a window. They paint it on a brick wall, which happens to be the brick wall of the police station.
Yeah. It is this giant fuck you mural of basically everything that's happened recently.
Right, in Pleasantville.
Like the story of Pleasantville.
Huge collage. They've got the books that they burned are now angels. So they all have angel wings flying up. There's the Catcher in the Rye flying up. Huckleberry Finn is flying up.
Yeah.
You see like this goofy little painting of legs and a dress in the back of a car, which you're like, oh, Lover's Lane. But they like, and they don't hide from it. They sleep in front of this mural for the whole town to see, knowing that you can't destroy this one. Like, you don't even know how to wash stuff off, so good luck.
Paint over it, but
but all the paint's been banned except for black. Well, I guess I could do black on it, but like this is a huge thing. Suddenly, jail is real in Pleasantville.
Yeah, they get arrested, and we haven't talked. Nobody's ever seen cops. There's never been a crime, so why would you have cops?
Yeah,
but they have to. They get arrested. They go to jail, and George has to come and I guess bail him out. Or
David seems so proud of himself and so relaxed in a jail cell. Yeah. He's reading the paper.
Yeah, he's like he knew it was going to happen. He was just kind of like, this is the situation. I'm going to choose to do these things that are obviously against the law, but still right.
Right. And how he's still kind of in a place of like, it's Pleasantville law. So how severe actually is.
Give me the electric chair.
Yeah. Like I'm not being put to death. My damnation isn't even really a thing.
Yeah.
So he's kind of like, whatever. I do love the visit from George because he's like, are you hungry? It's like, yeah, I brought cocktail olives.
Everything else was frozen and I don't know how to de-thaw it. So, I guess thaw it.
And then he asked him, like, do you mind if I have one of these? I'm starving ever since your mom left. And he like doesn't eat one. He opens that jar and just stuffs like 4 in his mouth.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that conversation between them because George asks David, he's like, what went wrong with all of this stuff? And David's basically like, I don't think anything really went wrong.
Yeah.
Things just changed. And that's kind of what happens in life,
Yeah, some of this is like, I mean, there's good and bad that come with the change, but that's always going to happen because change is always going to be there.
Yeah.
No matter how long you're like trying to postpone it, eventually change is there.
Yeah. People change. People always change. People should change. You should constantly be trying to change for the better. And the main problem, which we see in the movie, is when you try to prevent people from, you try to control people.
Yeah.
And the mayor tries to do that, control people from what they can listen to, what they can do, and stop their natural change.
Right.
It's obviously also bad if you force people to change when they don't want to, but that's that conflict or that balance there.
Hey. Sorry. She showed back up. This couch is very creaky.
It is pretty creaky.
I'm just going to say that. I know I sound like a bad, but if you can hear it on the show, it's the couch.
It's not farts.
Yeah, but then we get like a Pleasantville trial, which is so different than what you would assume a trial should be. There's no lawyers.
Yeah.
Everyone's there to watch, and it's the mayor.
Yeah, there's no judges. It's just the mayor has to be judged because there's no judges.
Yeah.
And David asks for a lawyer. He's like, we should have lawyers. And the mayor's like, no, let's just keep this, move it along. Why don't
keep this as pleasant as possible?
Let's not make it unpleasant by involving lawyers.
Which is a funny thing for him to say because there's never been crime.
Yeah.
How do you know that lawyers make things unpleasant?
It's true. Maybe it was a joke or something.
Yeah, I think that may have been like a writer's joke that is still funny.
It is. We get it.
Maybe a goof,
yeah. But it's funny that another reference I got, similar to the Shawshank reference, David's speech in that courthouse is very similar to To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah. That whole scene where you see the courthouse.
It's literally the exact same courthouse. All of the quote unquote colored people are up top in the mezzanine or balcony or whatever. And so they're looking up at like his mom who's up there and all these people who are their friends are up there. And so, it's literally
it's the exact same
Kill a Mockingbird. But that scene, and to this point, I think I had always kind of assumed that love was primarily responsible for people changing color and stuff. Watching it in more detail, I think it's more general than that. I think for some people it's love. I think it's emotion.
I think it's accepting actual emotion.
Yeah.
Whatever that emotion ends up being, that's kind of like the turning point for you.
Yeah.
There's no going back once you act on that emotion.
Yeah. If you embrace those emotions, emotion is kind of one of the building blocks of life. You can't experience life if you don't experience those emotions, I guess is the way to put it.
Yeah.
And so whether it's the emotions from sex or love, or because one of the things that happens is George describes his love for his wife, even though he's never actually really showed her or treated her like that. He does love her and appreciate her. And so he starts to actually describe it and realize how much he loves her.
Well, not only that, but he kind of accepts his own mistakes.
Yeah.
And he kind of embraces like his grief over her not being around anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's always been like the huge thing. And William H. Macy, holy shit.
Yeah. Yeah. That regret that he, I guess, has to live with, that he had this incredible woman that he took for granted, took advantage of, and now she's gone, and he regrets that massively.
Yeah. And I love the swipe. I love that how Tobey Maguire is standing and he's blocking the shot, and then David moves and he's full color, but he's not like breaking his contact from his wife.
Yeah.
I love that in the whole place. Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But then you also find out because like the mayor's all, this isn't in everybody. Like, what are you doing? Because that's David's huge argument is like, this is in everyone. Like,
Yeah.
you can't stop this. This is going to happen.
Yeah. The mayor is treating it like there's a difference between us, the black and white people, and you, the colored people. And Davis is like, no, we're all this way. You're just not this yet, or you're refusing to be, or whatever.
Yeah, you're just kind of like fighting it a little bit too much.
Mm-hmm.
And
We're
he's
all
like,
the
it's,
same.
yeah, it's not in everybody. And he's like, I think it's in them. And the courtroom has suddenly turned
Mm-hmm.
color, and it freaks the mayor out. I love that, because to me, it's almost like they realize the importance of, or the power
Yeah.
of the feels, as you will. You
Right.
know, like there was a stirring in all of them to embrace something more than just
Mhm.
what they've kind of been doing, their routine, their
Yeah.
non-existence at that point. I do love like how everyone's like, "Oh shit, we're all in color." Like, I love that. Mayor freaks out,
Mhm.
and he's still fighting it at that point.
Yeah.
He's like, but I think that's a good telling of how people do tend to respond to this kind of thing. Not obviously, we're not black and white.
Yeah.
We should find a black and white thing though.
We should. That's a good idea. But yeah, they try to. Some people resist it longer than others.
Yeah. I love how he breaks the mayor.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want to do to me right now? I bet you really want to hit me right now. Like, think about it. What do you want to do? Like, yeah, if you want to like elicit an emotion out of someone,
Mm-hmm.
anger and frustration is usually a pretty easy one to exploit.
Yeah.
And I love that he totally is like, yeah, we're doing that one. Like, there's no sentimental moment here. This is,
Yeah.
I'm going to piss you off to the breaking point.
Yeah. And it's very effective because as soon as he does get angry and experiences that emotion, he just goes full color.
Yeah, he just flushes with color.
Mm-hmm.
Flushes with color. I will say there's always a weird, I don't know if it's editing or just it feels odd to me. I don't know why.
Mhm.
But, you know, the mayor flushes with color, doesn't realize it, and the whole court, everyone is now like, oh my God, we just witnessed it twice in a row. Holy crap.
Mm-hmm.
And the mom, you know, Bud's mom is like, hey, and she tosses the mirror down. I don't know why, but that always feels weird.
Yeah.
And she's like, hey, Bud, and then throws the mirror. I don't know why. Did it feel like a weird cut to you, or kind of okay?
I mean, some of the over the shoulder angles, there's a couple of them in the movie. They're not a square, they're kind of crooked. So there's certain things about those that feel weird.
Yeah.
Or it's like there's a depth of field thing going on where like she's in the foreground on the balcony and he's all the way down on the floor. So yeah, there's weirdness.
It like for some reason throws me off just a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then he does it like, oh, look at yourself. Like, and that's to me, that's such a blatant, like, you have to face yourself. You have to look at yourself in the mirror.
Right. It's literally.
Like, and clearly the mayor does not like what he sees.
Yeah.
He runs away.
Yeah. Yeah. Which often happens when you honestly look at yourself in the mirror. You're like, don't like this.
Right. This sucks. What the hell?
Yeah.
Whoops. But then they go out into Pleasantville and we get like change has made its home.
Yeah.
Color is
Full
here.
Technicolor, no more black and white anywhere. Even the TVs in the store are like, we have color TVs now.
And not just that, but this is a callback to when he's explained to people like there is an outside world.
Mm-hmm.
The TV is showing like Egypt. It's showing Paris. It's showing
the broader
world. Yeah. Which I think is really cool. That suddenly like, oh man, everything just opened up.
Yeah.
I do find it funny that the first outside town name you see is Springfield.
Yeah. Very, very common name.
For a lot of fictitious towns.
Yeah. Yeah, that is hilarious. But yeah, now the town is open up and people can go off to college in another town. They can take the bus places. Like things have just progressed so significantly.
Yeah, like it's almost like there was just a snap or a push of a button. Everything just like bloop.
Yeah. Which often is the case when you are living one way and then the smallest thing can just change your perspective, and the whole world you see differently, or it opens up to you in a different way, which is, I think that does happen. It just represents it in an interesting way.
No, I totally agree. And then we get one of my favorite character moments is with Jennifer.
Yeah.
Who's not necessarily Mary Sue anymore. Like, she actually is Jennifer.
Yeah.
Getting on the bus to go to college.
She's decided to stay in this world because Buzz decided to go back to the real world. And she's like, no, I'm going to stay here and I'm going to go to college because I'm doing well here. I'm not going to go to college in the real world. My GPA sucks. I'm only having sex and stuff, not reading books. And so she's kind of made this life for herself. She understands what she wants to do with it.
Well, and she kind of like, there's a unspoken knowledge that she still can come back to the real world. So she's going to just accomplish, like, I need to continue to grow.
She's not done.
Yeah, she's not done growing up.
Yeah.
So I always, like, this would be the movie I'd be interested in a sequel in, just to have her return home.
Yeah.
But being the complete opposite of everything. Now, they wouldn't be able to do it because of how time works in Pleasantville, which I did learn what their timing is.
Okay.
Because I was very curious.
Yeah. In the commentary, you mean? Or
this was in the commentary, actually. But we'll get to that here in a second. But I love how they do this where, like, she says bye to David.
Yeah.
And he's totally like, are you sure? Yep, good. Like, he's just making sure his sister's going to be all right.
Yeah.
And she gets on the bus. But what I really love is, like, we don't see the bus, like, drive away. We don't follow her to sit on the seat. We don't, I mean, it's her story is over at this point. I really do appreciate that decision because we don't need to see her leave. We don't need an extended goodbye.
Right.
She said her goodbye.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not like a sad thing either.
No, it's, hey, this is cool. Like, go do you.
Yeah.
And then Bud's like getting ready to go home. I love this. It's so goofy. Because this is like not just a 50s mom kind of thing, but this is like every mom would do this. I think this is a very genuine feel to me.
Yeah.
Bud's getting ready to leave. The girlfriend made him cookies. Okay. She hands him your normal, very standard size brown paper bag. Baked you some cookies. And the mom shows up. There's fried chicken. There's some like marshmallow treats in there. What does she say? A couple sandwiches or something like that. How does all that fit in that bag?
The things that they like give people to travel is hilarious. Like,
right.
That's fried chicken. It's not going to keep for that long.
Right. And if it's fried, it's probably super greasy, especially back then.
Yeah.
So it's going to eat through that bag.
Yeah.
Luckily, his trip's not
not very long.
Very long.
Yeah.
But then she like gives him the leather jacket in case you get cold, and he even has that line like the trip's really not that long, just in case.
Yeah.
That's such a mom thing to me.
Yeah.
That just in case.
Right.
Love it every time. They say their goodbyes. I really like the connection between him and his mom.
Yeah.
Well, his TV mom, because it was very genuine. It was very like, I want to say intimate, but that kind of feels weird to say that, but that's really what it was with him, like helping her and defending her.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, what she comes to say goodbye to him in a way that every mom would do.
Yeah.
Except his mom, his actual mom, when she left to hang out with her boyfriend.
Didn't even say goodbye. It was just
exactly
gone.
So I took it this way as very intentionally different, where this mom cares about him, came to say goodbye, all of these things.
Yeah.
And has a very genuine, closer relationship than even his real mom, which is important, I think.
Yeah. Now, I will say, why didn't you take your girlfriend with you? Idiot.
She bakes you cookies, dude.
She makes you cookies. She's gorgeous, and I feel like she has a lot more to offer than just being in this TV show.
Yeah.
But they do, like, there's a few lines of, like, you'll come back, right? You're going to come and visit again.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, yeah. So you're like, okay. What a weird relationship to have. You're going to travel through a TV set.
Yeah.
Often.
Yeah.
and eventually have to go and get your sister. So
Wait,
you have the remote.
He doesn't leave the remote behind.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like his girlfriend would hate the real world.
Yeah,
she
that's
would
true.
not be happy.
Yeah. Like, your world is
Better
dumb.
off. Yeah.
But you could also make the argument, though, that the world of Pleasantville is soon going to be just like the real world.
Soon, eventually, yeah.
Yeah. So eventually she'll have to be like, wow, things suck. And then she might be resentful. You know what? He made the right choice.
Now that we've talked it through.
Change my opinion.
Yeah.
I almost forgot. We skipped over it, but I'm going back to it just to make sure I connect those dots.
Yeah, the note you took.
The color blue. I even circled the note. So there's a line after everything's like starting to turn blue. It's after the rioting really starts, the violence starts. There's a line of like, his door is blue. And the neighbor's like, it was always blue.
Yeah.
But they haven't been able to see any color.
Yeah.
So how does he know that it was always blue?
I took that as he's saying, it's not my fault. I didn't make it blue. It just stopped being black and white and became color. Right. It was always that. You just couldn't see it, kind of thing.
Okay, that would make more sense. Because at first I was like, wait a minute. Like, you guys have all acknowledged everything's actually black and white. Like, there actually is no color here.
Yeah, it's not like they're like, oh, that apple is red, that door is blue, but you look at them and you can't tell the different shades of gray what that means. Right. It's not like that. Yeah. So Bud goes home at the very end of the movie.
I like how they showed this is a better effect than the first time they go.
Yes.
So this is something that ends up happening with movies sometimes that have some kind of transfer. One transfer, like the first one you see, will be crazy. It'll be excessive. And then you'll see it again, and it's so much simpler. And this one I actually think is so much better.
Yeah.
Where it's just a quick fade.
It seems like they'll just kind of skip it. They're like, you get the idea.
Yeah.
You know what we're getting from.
And I actually kind of wish they would have just shown them fade into it instead of, like you said, show the wobbly or the wavy kind of stuff on it. You're like,
yeah.
I like that he just fades back into real life.
Yeah. And they don't even show it straight on. They show a reflection of him in the TV set, screen.
And then we get a fun detail that I wonder how many people miss. Did you miss this little detail?
I don't know. Tell me what it is.
It's the commercial break.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
I must have missed it.
So this ties into how time works.
Okay.
So the big question a lot of people have always had with this movie is, won't the mom be worried her daughter didn't come back from Pleasantville?
Yeah. Well, I know everything that's been going on in Pleasantville happened about an hour in the real world. Because when he gets back to the real world... Oh, I do know what you're talking about.
Yes, okay.
Because the TV set you hear in the background say, that concludes our first hour of the Pleasantville Marathon. Right. And they had just started it when they went into the show.
And his time in Pleasantville was a week long.
Yeah.
So the timing is, if the daughter went to college for she did the full 4 years and then came back, she's only been gone for a day or two.
Yeah.
So
a weekend.
The mom's not going to be worried about her, especially since it's the weekend, and probably, judging from her daughter's behavior,
she probably is just staying with her boyfriend.
Probably with a boyfriend.
Yeah.
This is what she does.
Yeah.
And also, the mom is pretty
hands off
her children. She's not connected to her kids. So I wonder also if the mom would even notice that her daughter did not. It's not even around right now.
Yeah.
But we do get to the mom's growth.
Right. Yeah. So the mom is there in the kitchen when Bud gets back, and Bud's like, I thought you went off to hang out with what's-his-face.
Yeah.
And she's like, I came back, I couldn't go, all that stuff. And so they have a very real, maybe for the first time, conversation. And it's very reminiscent of his conversation with Betty, where he helps wipe her makeup off and there's tenderness and care and connection there. And I think that's kind of the great growth and arc.
Yeah, I always, when you first meet the mom, you're very like judgmental of her.
Yeah,
like you're kind of a bitch. You're kind of a bad mom.
Yeah,
and then you see her breaking down. You realize like everything she's doing is just like it's desperation. She has no clue what to do. She's already feeling like she's lost touch with the kids. So now she's really lost.
Right.
And you're kind of like, oh,
who's here
at 10 o'clock?
Kristen, it's 9 o'clock, but Kristen may have ordered food or something.
Oh, yeah. My clock is still Texas time. My bad. That was goofy.
That was weird.
Your Bella's so happy. Yeah, and I always feel bad suddenly, and I kind of feel like, good job, asshole.
Yeah.
Like, because you do judge the mom right away, and then you find out, like, she's freaking out, like, I need help. I'm clueless. I'm broken. I do find the line kind of funny. And this is a dated thing.
Okay.
She complains that the guy that she was going to go stay with is like, what, 9 years younger than her?
Yeah.
Yeah. I had to laugh because I was like, man, people don't really care about that anymore. As long as the age difference isn't like, they're in school, I'm an adult.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
As long as you're past that creepy side of things, 9 years is kind of like, okay.
There's a difference between like, she may be 40, 45.
Right. Well, she says her age too, doesn't she? Yeah. I want to say that she's like just pushing 40 or something like that.
She was like 31-ish. Yeah, not a big deal.
Yeah, but she's like
adults doing career stuff.
Yeah. So it makes me laugh. Although I do also laugh at it when I was like, well, no one really cares about that these days. But then I also laughed at myself because I've given myself kind of like a little limitation of like when it comes to dating, if I meet someone that's 10 years younger than me, like, no. Like,
there are no circumstances.
There's a whole decade of life experience difference there. And how do you actually relate to that? But at the same time, so it was a lot of little chuckles for me for different reasons.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's like, that was like, we see the repairman again.
Yeah.
Who looks satisfied, which I feel weird about every time.
There's like, I feel like there's something missing, like some purpose for him sucking them in there. That was what I meant at the beginning, that he's a psychopath for doing this for no reason to them.
Yeah.
If there was something that they needed to do to save Pleasantville or some motivation to help them grow, that's never really addressed. He's just kind of outside their house in his truck. Can tell that he's like back
the whole time. He's been sitting in this truck for an hour.
Yeah.
Someone had to have been like, who the fuck?
Yeah. And somehow able to communicate with them through the TV. Yeah, it's very weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, his closure isn't really closure. I don't really get that.
Yeah, I never know how to interpret him because he's got like kind of a slight smirk. And then he puts it in gear and drives off. And I'm always like, was that your purpose? Like for them to grow as humans or?
Yeah.
Because they definitely, I mean, if your purpose was for them to enjoy the Pleasantville world, they fucked that world up.
Yeah.
Like, that world's gone.
They ruined it for everybody else.
Yeah. Like, Pleasantville doesn't really exist anymore.
Yeah.
If you got mad at them for, like, having sex, you'd have to just be distraught. But he looks satisfied.
Yeah.
I don't get his ending. I also kind of don't like the very last shot of this movie.
Okay.
So it cuts back to, well, we get like that montage, right?
There's a handful of things going on. You see Jennifer on the steps at her college with some boy reading books.
Yeah, and she's laughing.
Yeah.
She looks genuinely happy,
Yes.
which is great.
Yes.
We see a few other things. What are they?
I don't know. They're not important.
We just watched it too.
I know.
Damn it. But we do see a few things. But then it cuts to a bench with Betty and George. And George, like, I love George's question of like, so what happens next?
Mm-hmm.
And Betty, and the camera does that like side shift, fucking couch, couch. And she's like, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And then it cuts back and it's Bill. And he's like, well, I don't know either.
Yeah.
I don't like this shot. I love the idea of like questioning what's next.
Yeah.
Where do we go from here? I love that because I think as a human, as a species, we're constantly in a state of what do we do now?
Yeah. And so much of life is based on unpredictability.
Yeah.
And especially for these people who have had such a predictable life, to have something unknown in the future that's exciting, that's new, that's adventurous. That's what life is. And so that's kind of cool.
It is cool. And I like the idea of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't like the open-endedness of who did she pick?
Yeah. It felt so awkward to me because it's like, oh, George and Betty, they're having this conversation. And then it pans over and it's like, and Bill's here too, and having the exact same conversation. I'm like, are you like a menage a trois? What's happening here?
Right. Like, are we swinging? What is happening? I don't like that. I like the open-endedness of where do the people of Pleasantville go from here?
Yeah.
But I don't like this kind of, it feels forced love triangle.
Right, exactly.
Especially since I take the whole courtroom scene with George.
Yeah.
When he breaks down, because she's also crying when she sees him break. Mm-hmm. I've always taken that as like, that's the first step to them mending. Yeah. To them actually being a couple.
And I think that's ultimately what she wanted. She just didn't have a way to talk to him about it, or felt like she even could bring it up to him.
Yeah, there's got to be acknowledgement there.
Yeah, now they have that acknowledgement and that ability to talk about it. Like you said, nothing really happened with Bill that we know of. Yeah. I think that there was a connection there that helped her come out of her shell and expose her to life and emotion in a new way, and that was good for what it was. But I don't feel like that's going to be where it goes. I do think, like you said, that the established relationship with Bill and Betty, they can kind of build on that and grow. Yeah. Or with George and Betty.
So that's seeing Bill again, as much as I love Jeff Daniels in that role and that character. I always feel like we don't need that.
It feels so out of place for him to show up on the bench also. It's like three people in bed together. It feels weird.
This is like, I mean, I get that you guys are going to be adventurous now, but
yeah.
But yeah, and then we get like a cover of Across the Universe by the Beatles. Well, it's a cover of their song.
Yeah, which I'm sure is intentional. It's an old Beatles song, which is redone in a newer, modern way.
I don't remember who.
I don't know either.
Did it. But anyways, I'm sure it was someone in the 90s who was big.
And it sounded better than the Beatles because the Beatles suck.
Oh, shit. Hot take. Shots fired at the end of this. Oh, my God.
For those of you who are still around, feel free to
DM
us.
I'm not going to lie. I was not expecting that.
I did have the thought during it. I was like, this song isn't too bad. Oh, yeah, it's the Beatles. But the song's pretty all right.
I hated the movie.
Across the Universe?
I hated that movie. Yeah. So stupid.
Yeah. It was like, it starts out interesting, but over time I was like, I like this less and less.
Yeah. I've only seen it the one time.
Yeah.
And it was like, it's boring. It's dumb. But that's for a different show. But plus, I mean, overall, I feel, even though having listened to the stupid director's commentary, I feel like I'm going to be stubborn and ignore him.
Yeah.
Because, I like my interpretation. I like your interpretation way more than what he was trying to show.
Right.
His way, I feel, is very constricting, very limiting.
Yeah.
And if you're making a film about, like, open-mindedness and free will, you can't be limiting.
Right. It sounds like a very George Lucas way to view things. It's like, I put out this thing, this is what it means, this is what it is, and it can't be anything else.
Yeah.
And that's not how art works. We've talked about before as soon as an artist releases art, everybody else owns it. They interpret it the way they want. They make it whatever they want it to be.
Right.
And so it's out of your hands at that point.
It kind of is. But I mean, Pleasantville, it's still, I remember just loving it as a kid, but never really understanding why.
Yeah.
I was just always in a good mood after I watched it. And over time, after watching it over and over again, I'm always like, man, this is a good movie.
Yeah.
Like, this is a good, like, kind of palate cleanser and what us as people like. Okay,
Yeah.
change is scary. Change sucks sometimes, but okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for the reminder that there can be beauty in it.
Yeah. It's a fun little comedy that is on the surface. It's just kind of like pleasant and enjoyable, and it has kind of nice morals, I guess, overall. But yeah, there's so many more layers to it.
There's a lot to this movie. There really is.
Yeah, and a lot of it, I think, you could interpret in so many different ways. We talked about a good amount of it, but I'm sure you could take other details or things about it if you really wanted to get into all the different things about what this means for race relations and all that stuff in the 60s. And like, there's a lot of that. And so you could certainly you could take whatever you want from it in a lot of different ways, and you can interpret what causes the color in certain ways. And so we've shared our opinion, but
tell us yours. I really do want to hear other interpretations of this film.
Yeah.
Because I'm with you, where I feel like a lot of people, like, you could watch this with a big group, and I feel like at least a third of the group would all view it differently.
Yeah, and especially for each of the characters and their motivations and how they react to things, or like certain facial expressions. Maybe people interpret Don Knotts at the end differently, and so. Yeah, definitely.
I want to know.
Let us know. You can comment on any of our Instagram or Facebook posts, or DM us, and we love talking about these kinds of things after the episode's out.
Oh yeah, we're movie nerds. We're just, we love film. So anytime anyone wants to talk movies with us, I feel like we will fall down that rabbit hole pretty quick. You should be warned. We can go on for a while. Yeah. So if you catch us out in the wild, just brace yourself.
Yeah. If you want to have a conversation, let's have a conversation. That's why we talked for 2 hours and 40 minutes about this movie. That's not that long.
No, it's about 41 minutes shorter than what we've been talking.
Yeah. So I think that's it.
That's it.
You can find us on Facebook, Instagram at Movie Boners. Next week, we're going to be talking about, it's been a while since we've talked about artists, like a specific artist.
Yeah.
And it's been a long time since we talked about a director. I think we did an actor recently, but most recently.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about Peter Jackson's movies.
With a twist.
With a twist. Everybody knows Peter Jackson for the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit movies. We're not going to talk about those at all.
Yeah, we are completely omitting Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit.
Yeah.
Just
it'll be its own thing. We'll get around to it. If you love Lord of the Rings, don't worry.
You should know, it's not being omitted because we don't like them.
Yeah.
Actually, I feel if we didn't like them, we would be doing a hot take episode all about why we don't like it. But no, we just feel Peter Jackson's career has more to offer than just Lord of the Rings, than just Middle Earth.
Right.
Especially his whole intro into filmmaking, which Jake and I both are excited to talk about his first couple movies.
Yeah.
I know that.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Oh man, they're so
This is going to be a fun one. So Peter Jackson minus Middle Earth.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So that'll be exciting. Definitely check those out. I don't know how spoilery they'll be. They shouldn't be too spoilery, so you don't need to watch his whole catalog. But if you,
I'll probably get fairly spoilery with definitely one of them.
Okay.
Because it's one of the funniest movies I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I kind of have to get spoilery with that.
Yeah.
So just be warned.
So if you follow us along, just know we're going to be watching Peter Jackson movies. You should watch Peter Jackson movies, and we'll talk about them next week.
Yeah.
All right.
So thank you again, everybody.
Yep.
This has been fun being in person again.
I know. Back to remote next week.
Yep.
All right. See you guys next time.
See you guys.